We actually.
More talking to do than I have.
Well, they might have, yes, but
You guys have five.
But we have had this issue with BOC for many years about how they do the permitting that allows this kind of stuff to happen. And this was a great example of that to them and say, hey, we need to do something about this.
Well, there should be an extra.
I didn't know. Yeah, it was right.
So we'll just put it, sorry. That's fine.
The next speaker.
Yep, we
Okay.
can, one of the. Yeah, then they can just walk over. That works. There's like a whole free row here, so they could be. One on the corner.
I just.
What? On that side?
Back behind.
As long as nobody sits there.
Right.
We don't have it marked.
That's what I meant, somebody. Yeah.
Yeah, we can put them on both sides.
What happened?
Is that a township photographer or is that a media photographer?
You don't need to.
Is that someone from the township or is that media?
Yeah. I'm sorry about the way that worked out. It was really not the way it should have been. No,
Welcome, everybody, to our public forum on Bishop Road Bridge. Special thanks to any Steeler fans who have braved tonight to come out and do their civic duty. We are a newly reorganized Board of Commissioners for Upper Island Township. We have Karen Smith as a newly elected commissioner. Raise your hand. And Jennifer Clark. And of course, Ken Martin and Phil Walsh. I'm Eric Fairchild. I'm newly promoted to the role of board president, so I hope I don't disappoint in that department. The forum is organized so that commissioners can open with any comments or questions they may have. And this will be followed by comments from our special guest and then the public. There will be a follow-up period for further commissioner questions or comments. We will be calling speakers up two at a time initially so that the next speaker could be ready, to take the podium when the first speaker is finished. So we offer you the proverbial hot seat. I think it's right in front of Joellen Bitzer there. If you can raise your hand, Joellen, just that seat for the speakers so that we can be a little efficient in that department. We will need to limit people to 3 minutes a person, just so everybody has their turn. I believe we're going in order of the Upper Island Township residents and then residents outside the township. We have invited what I believe to be an excellent panel of experts on various aspects of the bridge. And it gives me great pleasure to introduce. We have Kirk Stoner on the end. If you want to maybe raise your hand, that's Kirk from the Cumberland County Planning Department. We have Mr. Logan Swartz from CS Davidson. He's the township engineer, the bridge expert within CS Davidson. Kara Russell is not here yet. Hopefully she'll be able to make it. We have Ms. Tyra Guyton of the Pennsylvania State Historic Preservation Office. We have Mr. Joe Bocci of the Upper Island Township Heart. Ms. Mr. Ross Brown of Wrought Iron Bridge Works. And Ms. Janice Links of West Shore Historic Society. So our guest will have 10 minutes to say whatever they wish to say. And, if they could introduce themselves or what they do, it would probably help. I'm going to lead off with the board comments by giving my own presentation about, a summary of the project as I see it. And I'll be followed by Karen Smith, our vice president, and commissioners Ken Martin, then Phil Walsh, and then Jennifer Clark. So anyway, my presentation is Chad Krebs has a bit of a slideshow. I'll try to read this fast. I timed it previously at 10 minutes. I hope I can stick to my own limit. The need, The need for Bishop Bridge was established by a report of bridge viewers and confirmed by Cumberland County Court on September 14th, 1897. That was the process back in the day for determining a need for the bridge. During this era, the metal truss bridges were widely marketed by fabricators such as Wrought Iron Bridge Works. I think that's our next slide. Well, public needs time to see it probably. They were quite a producer of bridges. The people would have shopped basically these catalogs and looked for a bridge fabricator for the location. So the Bishop Bridge was erected in 1898 from a kit specifically designed and manufactured by the Wrought Iron Bridge Company for Bishop's Fording. That's what it was called back then. And then I think you need to move up a slide or two, Chad. That was how they designed the bridges back then by hand. That's not our particular bridge, but that's how they did it. A lot of elaborate mathematical calculations. Next, we have the December 7th, 1898 Carlisle Sentinel, which reported the cost of the bridge at $5,000 at that time, and that the county commissioners had a most excellent feast at the Bishop home following inspection of the new bridge. Then we move on to the 1920s. We have a black and white several photographs, that show the color scheme was black and white at that time and that the bridge had oak decking. The bridge is listed in the Pennsylvania Register of Historic Places and is eligible for the National Historic Register for technological significance. We had an assessment done by Gannett Fleming. And there are less than 200 such metal truss bridges left in Pennsylvania at this point. In our own comprehensive plan, we try to protect our historic resources. So our current plan dates from 2013, and Bishop Bridge is specifically listed on page 3.4 for protection. I guess like third paragraph down or second. Anyway, numerous studies show attractive communities generate tourism and higher earned income tax revenue. And the bridge can be part of a wider bridge and trail network. PennDOT has a lot of experience with the metal truss bridges, and they have a specific management plan, very different plans and grants to assist in the rehabilitation of historic metal truss bridges. Cumberland and York County jointly own Bishop Bridge, but want to divest themselves of older low-traffic bridges. There's a 2019 York County Bridge Plan, which provides a good overview and explanation of county policy. The counties have previously offered Upper Allen Township $275,000 toward the cost of rehabilitating the bridge for vehicular use. County bridge funding comes mainly from the $5 registration fees and liquid fuel taxes. The Sheepford Bridge, that may be the next slide, is presently being rehabilitated. That's it being lifted by a crane back in November. It's being rehabilitated under a TASA grant. I think that's Transportation Alternatives Set Aside. So many different programs to aid in the rehabilitation of bridges. There's also new legislation such as Senate Bill 1070 that is coming about to further support bridges. Per our prior board discussions, rehabilitating Bishop for vehicular use is considered the best option and provides the most utility. The reasons preserving Bishop Bridge preserves connections or connectivity, public access, and limits intensive development in this area. Bishop Road and Bridge are one of the most scenic areas of Upper Allen Township, and various public planning documents call for us to protect the best. It may be possible in the future, well, you're one slide ahead. The property mapper slide shows there's Simpson Park in the top portion of the triangle. It may be possible to connect Bishop Road to Simpson Park via a future pedestrian bridge. And then from Simpson Park may be also connected to McCormick Road in the near future. In October 1990, Cumberland County court upheld a special exception for a project called Grantham Woods, which was a 487,000 square foot complex, including 367 apartments along Bishop Road, proposed by Messiah College. While this plan was not acted on, it shows the intensity of possible development on Bishop Road. And the counties have built an emergency access road to Messiah University. That's it, looking from Bishop Road back to the university. It is gated. That was done at a cost of $360,000. However, Messiah has security concerns about the public using this road or trail. The county demolition plan calls for removal of about 450 feet of Bishop Road. It's probably one next slide. Yeah. Removal of the road and construction of a causeway in the creek. So it's quite a much bigger project than you may expect just to remove the bridge, most likely because they intend to use a crane to lift it. Anyway, the land will be returned to the property owner subject to a future easement. Vacating a road generally requires a public hearing and a determination of public good. However, no such hearing will be held in this case. This is part of why we wanted to air some of this information tonight. The county plan primarily benefits 7 property owners along Bishop Road. The Upper Allen plan, should we assume ownership and rehabilitate the bridge, would benefit thousands of residents and public. The scope of work involved in this project, well, a little history lesson there. The metal truss bridges were often taken apart and relocated in days gone by. That's a photo from, I think, from the 1920s in Lancaster County. I think you'll see a Model T in the background, but that's how they took the bridges apart back then. No cranes. There is the 1896 Hall Drive Bridge near Dillsburg. That was actually relocated in 1917 and was rehabilitated for vehicular use in 2019. The historic methods utilized, that's called false work, and do not require the use of the cranes, tree cutting, or penetration of the stream bed. This lessens the environmental impact and provides cost savings. The Wrought Iron Bridge Works, the proposed contractor on this project, uses the historic method and was the sole responder to the township's previous RFP seeking rehabilitation of the bridge. Mr. Ross Brown of Wrought Iron Bridge Works is here tonight and can explain his approach further. Per the Wrought Iron Bridge Works proposal, Bishop will be taken apart in reverse order of assembly and shop restored to the original specs. The process is more like a nut and bolt automobile restoration than a typical bridge project. The expected weight limit is 12 to 15 tons, although it could be higher. Actually had met at the bridge this afternoon with Mr. Brown, and he thinks we may be able to go higher on the weight limit. Structural adequacy will be determined and verified by independent engineers after the bridge is disassembled. PennDOT and McCormick Taylor have indicated the proposed scope of work would be able to be approved for structural adequacy if properly analyzed and designed. The bridge will be repainted to standards higher than required by PennDOT and re-erected using the historic methods. Engineering, permitting, and abutment repairs are included in the wrought iron bridge proposal. A fully restored Bishop Bridge should last another 100 years. Cost. In May 2025, wrought iron bridge work proposed fully rehabilitating the bridge for vehicular use for a fixed price of $1,050,000. This includes $400,000 for the disassembly phase of the project. Wrought Iron Bridge proposed an escrow account instead of bonding. However, they can provide bonding for an additional $100,000. $50,000 should be added to project costs for contingencies and inspections. $1.2 million should be the maximum all-in cost for full rehabilitation or restoration. Ongoing maintenance costs will consist mainly of cleaning the bridge and are estimated to be less than $10,000 a year. The county has said it will continue to cover the cost of inspections. And by using higher quality paint, the bridge may be able to go 40 or 50 years before needing a full repaint. The funding sources, regarding funding, the costs are always our procedures to budget up front and then offset those costs with grants or reimbursements as they come in later. The bridge project would likely fall into 2 budget years. Upper Allen closed 2025 with, I believe we have a more accurate current figure. I believe it's 19.6 million spread over 16 budgeted funds. This includes approximately 6.3 million in capital reserve and 500 and some thousand in liquid fuels. They would be the 2 categories we would look at for budget purposes from the township end. Bridge was previously budgeted in 2025 at 900,000, and that was for pedestrian use. And that money was to have come from capital reserve. Staff continues to recommend using capital reserve versus other sources such as liquid fuels. The budget does not have to be reopened using capital reserve. The $275,000 previously offered by the county toward the rehabilitation will need to be renegotiated, and whatever money comes from the county would be used as an offset to the cost. Various programs through PennDOT, PHMC, or the local share account grant could provide additional funds. Individuals have expressed interest in donating toward the bridge, and it appears that Upper Allen can establish an escrow fund to accept pledges or donations. The current status is that the county has had issues with its DEP permit, and it will now cost the county probably more time and money to regain this permit. This creates a window of opportunity to work with the county and state to see if we can find a better solution than demolishing the bridge. That's mostly why we're here tonight, to get information to hopefully make a better decision. Most of us also pay taxes to the county and state, and it is in our collective interest to find the most beneficial solution. There's apparent little cost difference between demolishing the bridge versus carefully disassembling it. The bridge could be disassembled and then stored by Upper Allen Public Works Department while further options are developed and considered. In terms of other projects that Upper Allen has taken on and the cost, Township routinely spends 6-figure amounts on stormwater projects. Lancelot Avenue was closed last week pending a pipe replacement that will cost an estimated $250,000 plus engineering. 2024, Upper Allen paid $620,000 to reline one section of stormwater pipe in Meadowview. Upper Allen is presently completing a $1 million project to rehabilitate Grantham Pond. Some might say it wasn't worth it, but the pond was dying. Now we have a beautiful National Register eligible historic bridge that is dying. It is largely a question of priorities. Parks have been a high priority of previous commissioners. On November 19th, 2025, the prior board voted to apply for a $1 million LSA grant to construct trails, elevated boardwalks, and observation deck at the 2.87 acre Trout Run Park. This is a new project that few people even know about. Upper Allen has spent over $11 million on capital projects at 4 parks in recent years. The breakdown is Friendship, 1.9 million, Generations at 2.6 million, Grantham Pond, a little over 1 million, Winding Hills North and South at 5.6 million. So that concludes my comments. I'll turn it over to the rest of the board, starting with Karen Smith.
Okay, thank you, Eric. Some people who support the county demolition care about responsibility, and there's others who support preservation care, and they're concerned about our legacy. Both values belong in this conversation, and we're all here to peacefully listen to each other. And I'd like to thank you for coming and spending your evening here.
Martin.
Good evening. Thanks for coming out tonight. I think just gazing over this audience demonstrates the interest specifically in Upper Allen Township. You know, this is our community. This area is our homestead. And I think the fact that you would take time to come out and get information on this proposed projects as well as comment on it is just really heartwarming to me as an elected official. And I think it should be understood amongst us that we care about our community. I've said previously, the bridge is not a high volume bridge, but it is in an area of our township that does have a lot of significance and maybe future development at some point, who knows? But I think the bridge can be rehabbed. And I've always said if it's done so with non-township funds and kept open for vehicles, I think I could support it. But to have a pedestrian bridge that serves few people and isn't part of our connected trail system within the township, I have reservations about that. But you're not here to hear from me. We're here to hear from you folks. And I think the purpose of this evening is that you as citizens can comment to this board and help us to decide whether this project is a good use of township funds and excuse me, and are you willing to spend township dollars on this project? Is this the way we want to spend our resources? I might suggest that an alternative to rehabbing the old bridge that has restrictions might be doing something similar to what we did with Gilbert Bridge almost 20 years ago when we spent 2.3, well, the county spent, but there was $2.3 million spent. And that bridge is still in good shape. It's serving the community and it has no weight restrictions, no width restrictions, and no height restrictions. So at the other end of Bishop Bridge, we could have a bridge similar to that in this spot and maybe have it go on for the future. But thanks again for coming, and I hope that we have time. I'm a diehard Steelers fan, but I'm willing to stay here as long as it takes so we can hear from everyone. Thank you.
No?
This is great to see everyone here. I just wanted to, first of all, I just wanted to clarify, my understanding was that up until this point, I thought we were talking about strictly use as a vehicular bridge. I'm not opposed to a pedestrian bridge, but that also precludes the use of, I believe, certain funding. Sorry. I'm not opposed to the use of the bridge for pedestrian use only, but that would preclude the use of some sources of funding, including, I believe, a liquid fuels tax to the tune of about a little over $250,000, which could be released to the township if it was put back in use as a vehicular bridge. So my understanding is up until this point that we have been working on the assumption that this would be put into use as a vehicular bridge. If I could step back just a minute and go back to our comprehensive plan, which is an official statement of public policy by the Board of Commissioners pertaining to the growth and development of Upper Allen Township. In our last comprehensive plan, under Chapter 3, Environmental and Cultural Resources, under goals, there are simply two goals. The first of which is the protection and to enhance natural resources and maintain the township's suburban, semi-rural setting and a safe and attractive living environment. The second of the two goals is to protect cultural resources in the township. And I do believe that that is what we would be doing by preserving this bridge. I would also like to note that the bridge itself was noted in the comprehensive plan. So it's not like this just came out of nowhere. While it was misidentified as being on the National Register of Historic Places, it is in fact eligible to be on the National Register of Historic Places. And while, so the comprehensive plan, I don't know how many of you have worked in municipal governments, but they're very important, but at the same time, to paraphrase Pirates of the Caribbean, they are more like mere guidelines. They don't have teeth to the extent you'd think they might otherwise. So for that, we go to ordinances. And We have a number of ordinances pertaining to various aspects of the character and the preservation of the character of this township. But during recent work with the HARB, who is now developing a guidance document for the historic districts, it gave us the opportunity to reread the duties and responsibilities of the HARB, which is the Historic Architecture and Review Board. Under 155.12, individual historic sites and structures. In addition to the creation of historic districts, the governing body may establish a listing of individual sites or structures of historic value. Such sites or structures shall not be governed by the provisions of this chapter pertaining to historic districts, but the governing body may establish such reasonable restrictions on the use of such sites or structures and land adjacent thereto as will tend to preserve their historic character. So, you know, as an ordinance, that does carry more teeth than I would suggest the comprehensive plan. And I think we have several members of the HARB here tonight. One of the responsibilities listed, I'm not going to go through all of them, under 155.7 powers and duties of the board, also include conducting a survey of buildings for the purpose of determining those of historic and/or architectural significance and pertinent facts about them, maintaining and periodically revising the detailed listings of historic sites and buildings and data about them appropriately classified with respect to national, state, or local significance to period or field of interest or otherwise. So I believe that this bridge does in fact represent one of the few remaining historic structures that harken back to this township's heritage, particularly in this past year being the 175th anniversary of the township. I think it's important to revisit the few remaining structures in areas that are left. And I should also note that the Historic Architecture of Upper Allen Township book, which identifies I think over 100 different properties throughout the township, any one of those historic structures that aren't in a designated historic district have absolutely no protection. And there are several, as we speak, that are slated for demolition, even though they're listed in early architecture of Upper Allen Township as being significant historical structures. They have no protection. The bridge is a little different in that I believe the HARB does have the authority to identify this structure as a significant structure worthy of our attention. And I believe it is worth the investment for not only us here tonight, but also the future generations that will have very little, if anything, left of our historical character to enjoy. Thank you.
Good evening. Thank you all for coming. I appreciate this so much. Love seeing this room full, and I love seeing all the local interest in this. I appreciate you all coming out, and I'm just excited to hear from you guys. I think we have a lot of experts up here that are going to give us details, but it's important for us to keep in mind what the township residents want. And so I'm looking forward to that part of this evening as well. Thank you so much for coming out.
I believe I neglected to mention that our meeting is being recorded and live streamed, so people should be aware of that. I'd like to introduce our panel of guests, and I don't know if Kara Harris is here. I thought that may be you, Kara. There is a seat up for you at the table. So I thought we could go down the line, starting with Mr. Stoner and then Mr. Swartz and so forth, and hear their perspective on the bridge. Yeah, it's your option, Kirk. Yeah, you're a good presenter, so you better to face the audience probably. Thank you.
All right. Good. Everyone can hear me okay? Yeah. All right, good. My name is Kirk Stoner. I'm the Director of Planning for Cumberland County. So in that role, I'm the lead staff person on our county bridge program. So we have 29 bridges countywide that we own and maintain. We also receive funding from PennDOT for liquid fuels funding, and we receive a $5 local use fee that was passed in 2015 that funds our program. So we work on those on the transportation side. And then also on the land use side, we work with our 33 municipalities on land use, transportation, environmental planning issues. So as we talk about this issue from the county standpoint, we're familiar with transportation and our responsibilities with that, as well as when we start talking about land use and historic preservation, some of those issues. We're familiar with those as well. So it isn't that one of these aspects is foreign to us while we're well-spoken one another. So I don't know who's controlling the, okay, next slide. So what I want to make very clear to start with is that our review of Bishop Bridge isn't new. Okay, so I started with the county back in 2002. Shortly after I came to the county, they gave me the bridge program. So that was mentioned earlier, the Halls of State or Gilbert Bridge, however you want to refer to it. That was one of the first projects that I was handed to when I came to the county that was well underway when I got there. But on Bishop Bridge, really our journey on that started in 2014. That's when the first closure of the bridge occurred. At that time, we started working with York County. Since the bridge is jointly owned by York County, we started working with them to figure out what's the long term for this bridge. We realized it was low volume. We also realized that rehabilitating bridges like this are very costly. So where do we want to head with this? At the time, we made a small repair. It was about $62,000. We thought this would last us about 10 years for that repair. Okay, so the thing you need to understand about steel truss bridges, there's a lot of intricate parts that are put together to make the whole bridge. So as we repair one part of it, there could be another part of it that fails. Okay, that commonly happens. We made that repair. Then in 2017, we had a public discussion on the future of the bridge. We actually had a meeting here to talk to residents to figure out where do you want to go with this? What are your issues and concerns of either leaving it open or closing it? We had mixed reviews. Some said close it, some said fix it. The one thing that we did hear from residents were if you close the bridge, we have concerns that further down on Gilbert Bridge, the stream floods at times. And especially for our 5 residents, or 7 residents that are on what I call the peninsula, if you look at it, the peninsula of Cumberland County, there's a public safety concern for those folks that if there's a flood, can they get out? So we realized as we're planning for the future of the bridge, we needed to keep that in context. We didn't want to make a situation where our residents then were trapped because of a decision that we made. So in 2018, then we worked with the York and Cumberland County Commissioners. We came up with a long-term plan. We agreed to continue the inspections. This is something that Cumberland County does on behalf of our 33 municipalities. We inspect about 65 municipal bridges at no cost to the municipality and provide those inspection reports back to the municipality. So we'll continue to inspect Bishop Bridge. We just inspected it last year, even though it's closed. It's one of our requirements under some state and federal standards, and we'll continue to do that. We also said that as part of our bridge plan, we'll close the bridge when major repairs are needed. So it's a lot like a used car. From our standpoint, we're looking at it's a low volume bridge. When you look at it in terms of countywide transportation need, it wasn't cutting muster. Also, when you start to look at the cost to replace that, it was really high. We didn't see, one, the transportation need, nor do we see the cost benefit. So when major repairs were needed, we had indicated at that time we were going to close the bridge. Along with that, we worked with Messiah College to construct that emergency access road. Again, that was an important component of our project because we wanted to make sure if there's flooding in the future, we have a closed bridge, that our residents have a safe way to get out. Finally, we said we'll continue to market the bridge to new owners. So PennDOT has a website that they market steel truss bridges. I believe we started marketing it in 2017. So it's been out there for quite a while. Occasionally we have a few people kick the tires, give us a call, but we haven't had any serious takers to date. 2019, the emergency access road was completed. You can see the costs on that's construction costs. Eric quoted $360 earlier. I think that was all in with engineering. That was our construction costs. In 2021, bridge was finally closed. We had that point where during one of our inspections, like, hey, this thing needs to be closed, large costs to rehabilitate it. We made the final evaluation, took one final look at it, so okay, it's time to close it. And then from 2023 to 2025, most recently, we've been working with the township, determine if they want to own it. So that's been a long time. I'll admit we have spent money on that. Okay, we've spent money of using our engineer to work with the township to determine the different options that are out there, the costs, the risks associated with it. We've been very upfront that we do that as goodwill as one of our partners. We consider all 33 of our municipalities bona fide partners in what the county wants to do. So we did that negotiation in good faith, and we'll continue to do that and work with the township if ownership is something that you want to look into. So a couple key points I want everyone to take away tonight from the county side. We determined that there was no vehicular transportation need for the bridge. Low ADT, that's average daily traffic of about 200, short detour, limited new growth potential. And when you start to look at it from that cost benefit analysis, it wasn't cutting muster. And finally, we looked at that existing investment in the area. So we look at $2.3 million for the Halls Estate Bridge. That was a new bridge just upstream. And then we look at that access road. We're at like $2.6 million investment in this corridor. To add more into that for a limited transportation benefit, we didn't see the need. Finally, we provided for public safety. We have the emergency access road in there. The 5-ton weight posting that's out there now, well, before it was closed, 5-ton weight posting, we actually ratcheted that back. It was 10, but we pulled it back down to 5 to help lengthen the lifespan of the bridge to make sure that overweight vehicles weren't using it. So I think the final point here is very important. The counties have been very patient. And again, when I say counties, Cumberland and York County owns, we've been very patient working with the township, providing options that are out there, working with you to try and figure out where this needs to head. And we're willing to do that into the future, okay? But we can't continue to do that indefinitely. So I think tonight's forum is a great opportunity. Your Board of Commissioners really wants to hear from you. It's a good opportunity to move this forward so that we know where we're headed. Next slide. A few frequently asked questions. These are the things I hear a lot. How much will a rehab cost? We had our engineer look at it. So from looking at it, their look $2.7 million. That's as of September 2023. You have some other contractors here tonight. They have some different ideas on how to do this. I'm not going to argue those points. The best thing when it comes to costs are bona fide bids where someone's signing on the line meeting PennDOT specifications, right? So if you're going to open it to vehicular traffic, get the contractor out there, work with PennDOT, sign on the dotted line that you'll do a project for a certain price. You get that. If you get it for $1 million, take it and run. Second question, have Cumberland and York counties committed money to the bridges rehab? No, we have not committed money to the rehab. I want to be very clear on this. We had a previous offer of ownership. The township did not take that at the time. At this point, there's no money on the line from Cumberland County, okay? If there's any such funds that would come in the future, they would have to be approved by both Cumberland and York counties, and they will also be offered as a reimbursement. And that reimbursement would be for a PennDOT approved project. Our money, our county liquid fuels dollars, or local use fee dollars can only be used for projects that have received PennDOT approval. So again, that's where you have another contractor has some ideas. Again, if you can get a low cost on this thing, it meets PennDOT approvals and you want to do this, do it. At which point you could make another ask of the Cumberland and York County commissioners to see if they're interested in helping out. Can our county bridge funds be used for historic preservation or pedestrian bridges? No. So we can't use that liquid fuels funds. We can't use $5 registration fee to fund historic preservation or pedestrian bridge projects. Okay, so when you look at what we're in from the county as historic preservation piece, we can't use our bridge funding for historic preservation. Okay, PennDOT and others say this is a high priority for them. It would be great if at some point PennDOT and PHMC got together and said, you know what, if we want this stuff done, we're going to work legislative changes to make sure that liquid fuels and $5 registration fee money can be used for some of these purposes. And then we can have some of that money be infused into the project and hopefully make it work. Final question, are we still pursuing demolition? If we can't work out an ownership deal with Upper Island Township, yes. We'll have to work with PHMC. I was talking to Tyra today. I've talked to her a little bit about what we need to do, where we need to head. So yes, it would be something we'll look at. But I think the final word is we want to work with the community. We want to do what's right here. And if it means working with you to figure out a solution on this, we want to do that. But we do want to see it happen in a relative short amount of time. We've been waiting since really 2014 when we started this. We've been at it for a while. We have successful examples throughout the county of bridges we've preserved. You can go to Craighead Bridge in South Middleton Township. We have working bridges right now in Green Lane Farms in Lower Allen Township. The Eggy Bridge, which is a stone arch bridge in South Middleton Township that we've committed to preserving. Hertzler Bridge, West Pennsboro Township. We just led a $170,000 repair on that after a little over $1 million rehab on that recently. So we have these representative examples of historic bridges throughout the county that we've preserved. So it isn't that we're tone deaf to historic preservation. Rather, we have to pick and choose where we're doing this and where it makes sense. And I believe we've done that. In this case, we don't see that there's a vehicular need for Bishop Bridge. We've made that determination. We're not revisiting it. But as we look forward, we want to work with the community to see if there is an option to preserve the bridge in some way. If we can help out with that, we want to do it.
Yeah, Kirk, or I believe, yeah, if you'd like now.
Sorry, Kirk. First of all, thank you so much for working with us. I didn't realize how many years we've been working together on this, so I really appreciate it. I apologize, you may have mentioned this, but did you all come up with a cost for the demolition of the bridge?
Yeah, so we recently bid the demolition. It was $181,000. Okay, so there was some comments about we didn't have a permit for that. We had a permit. We worked with DEP. DEP directed us to apply for a GP8 permit, which we did. Followed their direction. They issued the permit. And then after we bid the project, PHMC noticed that, hey, this was a historic bridge. The coordination that was required for that didn't occur. So now we're working back through that process, working with PHMC. If we go that demolition route, working with PHMC to make sure that all our ducks in a row with that permit.
I had a follow-up question, if that's all right. So you referenced the historic nature of the bridge. My understanding was that it is in fact identified on the state register of historic places, the bridge?
Correct. There's a state website in Tyra. It's the PA Project Share, right? Or
PA share, yeah.
PA Share. So it's a listing of
Okay.
resources at the state level, and it is listed on that,
Okay.
which triggers that review then with the permit review at DEP.
Great, thanks.
All right, good evening. My name is Logan Swartz. I'm the Bridge Engineering Manager for CS Davidson. So CS Davidson is a municipal engineer here. You probably, if you come to the meetings, are used to seeing Jason Reichert. He's our representative for the township. But the bridge-related work has been coming to myself and my team. So under direction of the township, we've been evaluating over the years various proposals and options for what could be done at Bishop Road with this bridge structure. We've conducted some inspection work, some assessments, and some cost estimating over the years. Most recently, we've been evaluating the proposals from Wrought Iron Bridge Works. And so this evening, I just wanted to share kind of from the most recent submittal that was made. We provided a memo to the board, and this was in June this year and I'm just going to highlight some of the larger hurdles that remain in place based on that review. There's been some discussions about PennDOT's involvement, and certainly PennDOT is, you'll hear me mention that multiple times here in regard to the fact that any design plan or rehabilitation that needs to go in place for a structure that's on the National Bridge Inventory that's going to have to be open to vehicular traffic is going to have the approval of, at minimum, structural adequacy from PennDOT. So that's kind of the minimum threshold of review from the district. As you add different funding sources and things like that, layers of review are added onto that. So again, that's a challenge, hurdles that would have to be crossed depending on the funding type that is used. But for the purposes of the discussion this evening and what has been presented to us, structural adequacy would be that structural review. And a couple of the larger components that I think would be involved in that that remain to be addressed are the abutment restoration. There's lots of discussion in the Wrought Iron Bridge Works, their expertise on the trust members themselves. But as far as the in-stream work, the abutment rehabilitation, and the extent of those things, again, some of those things can't be seen right now, and how those costs and things would be handled. That is a question that we had raised in this memo. The other thing is the load rating analysis. Again, the comments from PennDOT, I think Commissioner Fairchild had that in the presentation. This is possible to be done with the structural adequacy approval. This is not something that PennDOT is closing the door on, but there is the calculations and everything that would need to be provided in regard to getting that back open for a vehicular weight limit. And the township needs to consider what is that weight limit that it will be able to achieve when it's reopened. The other item is the vehicular safety on the structure itself. As you can see, the existing railings, and in most historical rehab jobs, there is not the vehicular safety and traffic barriers and things that we would have on modern design bridges. In addition, you have the vulnerability of the truss members, and the thin elements, if impacted by vehicles, can significantly damage the structure itself and potentially lead to collapse just because there's not redundancy within that structure. So those are things that PennDOT heavily considers in their evaluation. So if you add heavier barriers on, that of course impacts the historical components of the structure. And it also adds weight, which impacts the vehicular load capacity. So there's a lot of components there that go into designing the full scope of what this rehabilitation can look like. So again, at this point, there's no closed doors, but there are certainly some technical components that would need to be evaluated. Our memo has been provided to the township to that regard.
Thank you, Logan.
Hello, I'm Kara Harris. I work for PennDOT. I'm the Culture Resources Section Chief. I've been with PennDOT since 1999, and in that time, I've seen the loss of over half of the population of historic metal truss bridges in the state. So one of the things we do in PennDOT, in my group, we have 16 people that deal with culture resources at PennDOT in my group. And one of the things we have seen over the years is that there's sort of a perfunctory look at rehabilitation as part of any transportation improvement program. And what happens is with these bridges, they are so old and decayed that they get to a point where the maintenance hasn't occurred over the years to where rehabilitation is so expensive and you have to replace so much of it. And then you have the redundancy issues and the fracture critical issues that he talked about. So it's sort of an uphill battle to rehabilitate these bridges for continued vehicular use. You add that on to the fact that these typically have very low ADTs and they really can't compete with the more, sort of high volume bridges for the limited funds that, always exist. And so one of the things we realized years ago is that we really need to look at this population sort of separately. So many years ago, we did a statewide inventory. So that's how we already know what bridges are historic, which bridges are eligible for listing in the National Register of Historic Places. We did that inventory at PennDOT. And then from there, we know sort of going into a project, hey, this bridge is historic. We have to really consider rehabilitation as part of that effort. But typically the bridges get replaced. And so what we decided is that for all the reasons we talked about, so we decided that we really need a special fund to help offset the fact that these bridges can't really compete with the regular transportation improvement program funds. So we do have that program, and that's, I think, one of the reasons why I was asked to talk tonight. And Tyra sits on that group with us that decides the disposition of those funds. So certainly this is a type of bridge that could be a candidate for those funds. However, the funds are limited. We have a $18 million fund spread across the state to cover all the bridges that are in this sort of boat. And so while we could consider the fund if this was a vehicular or a pedestrian structure use, most typically we're focusing those funds on bridges that would remain in vehicular use. What we are doing with another bridge that I know that we're all maybe familiar with is we're helping to offset another fund wherein the fund has a cap, and we're providing that difference between the cap of that program with our funds from this program. So we're able to kind of step in and help offset those differences. So that program that I'm referring to is a federally funded program. So that's something that would be a possibility here, that we can look at that. Now that program I'm also involved with. We're in a funding cycle now, so it might be a couple of years before there's an application cycle for that. But just in terms of funding, that's the kind of thing that I may be involved with, and maybe could provide some guidance with as you go forward. But also, I've certainly been involved with historic metal truss bridges for 27 years, so it's something I'm quite familiar with, and it's a real dilemma. I mean, these are really a very much a dilemma for communities, but at the same time, and I think Tyra will speak to this, these really are a vanishing resource that represents the industrial heritage of our state. And so you have to kind of weigh your, your transportation needs with your historic preservation values. So that's what I wanted to say. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Kara.
Hello, I'm Tyra Guyton, and I work for the Pennsylvania State Historic Preservation Office. It's commonly called the SHPO, and it's also part of the Pennsylvania Historic and Museum Commission. So I wanted to talk to you tonight about the importance of metal truss bridges in Pennsylvania and why Bishop Road could be beneficial if it's saved. So let's start with talking about the history of metal truss bridges. In the mid-1800s, there was this explosion of technology and design that led to the popularity of metal truss bridges that lasted well into the 1900s. The expansion of railroads and the increase in size of locomotives and rolling stocks caused this need for bridges that were stronger and more reliable. So bridge engineers embarked on a period of technological expansion and experimentation that resulted in a variety of truss bridges that were eventually adopted for roadway use. The variety of trusses we see today are the namesakes of engineers and craftsmen such as Thomas Pratt, who experimented with finding the best truss type and design to span a crossing safely, efficiently, and economically. Back then, Pennsylvania was known as the iron and steel capital of the world. It was the vast iron and steel industry that attracted metal truss bridge manufacturers to locate in the state. Bridge fabricators bought iron and steel from foundries and metal truss manufacturers and formed, drilled, and assembled bridges in their shops. Bridges were then shipped to the bridge site where they were reassembled in the field. Bridge companies employed salesmen to travel the countryside to peddle their company's bridges to local township supervisors and county commissioners. Sales agents carried catalogs that illustrated the types of bridges available. This led Pennsylvania to have the largest and most diverse collection of metal truss bridges in the nation. Now that the iron and steel companies and bridge fabricators are largely gone, these bridges stand as monuments to Pennsylvania's heritage and industry legacy. The Bishop Road Bridge is 134-foot pin-connected Pratt through truss built by the Wrought Iron Bridge Company in 1898. While the Wrought Iron Bridge Company was not located in Pennsylvania, it was an important early metal truss bridge manufacturer. In 2017, the Pennsylvania SHPO and PennDOT looked at the population of metal truss bridges and found that over 50% of metal truss bridges had been lost since PennDOT had completed its comprehensive inventory of historic highway bridges in 2001. So that was over 400 bridges gone within 16 years. Of the approximately 400 metal truss bridges that remained in 2017, only 209 of them were determined eligible for or listed in the National Register of Historic Places. The National Register is the nation's list of historic places that hold significance and are considered worthy of preservation. We continue to lose these important bridges, and while we haven't looked at the metal truss bridge population since 2017, I can say with certainty that the number of eligible or listed bridges is now well under 200. Bishop Road Bridge was determined eligible for listing in the National Register in 1989 for its engineering significance. The bridge is an early metal truss bridge built before 1900, has early rolled metal truss members, expresses artistic value with lattice railing, A-framed portal bracing, and decorative builder plaques, and is the work of an important and prolific bridge builder. Many communities embrace their metal truss bridges. We have found that rehabbing these bridges can foster a sense of pride in the community. These bridges become destination spots. They stand as icons to their iron and steel heritage, and they bring people into the community. Did you know there are websites that discuss and photograph these bridges and people that travel to visit them? These bridges catch people's attention. They become a spot for homecoming and prom pictures. They can bring tourism dollars into your community. Preserving Bishop Road Bridge can enhance your community's identity, attract tourism, and serve as a cultural landmark, offering opportunities for local events and heritage tours. Thank you.
Thank you, Tyra. Evening, everyone. Thank you, commissioners. Close? How close? That's close. Okay. Thank you, everyone, for coming. My name is Joe BOC. I am the Vice Chair of the Historic Architectural Review Board for Upper Island Township. Thanks to Kyra for giving that great history review of all the bridges here in Pennsylvania. And thank you, Phil. Thank you, Phil Walsh, Commissioner, for pointing out Chapter 155, the ordinance that adopted Chapter 155 for the Historic Architectural Review Board. And it's not out of our purview to recommend these sites that are historic and keeping them intact. I wish to express my recommendation that the Bishop Bridge not be demolished, but retained and ownership transferred to Upper Island Township. As a resident of Cumberland County since 1978, when my wife and I bought our home in Upper Island Township, I've been involved with the HARB since probably 30 years. And during that time, I've witnessed the destruction and loss of many significant structures that contributed to the rich historic fabric of the county and Upper Island Township. The loss of these structures should not be taken lightly, should be taken very seriously. As we've heard, the Bishop Bridge is eligible for placement on the National Register as a historic resource and should not be lost to the wrecking ball and sold as scrap. As an architect practicing for 45 years, I've been involved with the restoration of structures on the National Register, one of those which was the State Capitol building in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. I had the privilege of working with a nationally renowned preservation architect. His name was Hy Myers, and on the State Capitol project. He once said something that stuck with me, and I hope sticks with you tonight. He said, Americans don't realize that historic structures are a natural resource. They throw them away like used paper Dixie cups. So, what are we going to do? What say you, fellow Cumberland Countyans? Are we going to throw away this piece of history like a used Dixie cup? I certainly hope not. Members of the Upper Island Township Historic Architectural Review Board are hopeful that Bishop Bridge, through your thoughtful action, can be saved and properly rehabilitated for use with using historic methods. We thank you for this consideration very much. Thank you, Joe.
Let's see if I'm on. I am on. Okay. So I can see the board and see everybody else. I am Ross Brown. I represent Wrought Iron Bridge Works. I did not know that this was built by the Wrought Iron Bridge Company until today. Kind of an interesting thing, but anyway, I'm a co-owner of that company. I'm the guy that does the actual work on the site. I'm the one that'll come out, take it down, take it back to Indiana. Take it down such that it can be rebuilt. And then if you choose to do so, I will take it back to Indiana. I will do a full restoration on it, bring it back out and put it back up. My business partner is an engineer out of New Jersey, Art Zuckerwer, and I can never pronounce his last name properly. So you may hear all kinds of different things for his last name. It's a little hard to pronounce. He and I got to working on bridges together about 10 years ago because I took some bridges out for him personally out of Pennsylvania for us to put up in New Jersey for access to a historic area where that was the only way you get access to that area by using a historic structure to get there. Anyway, to start a little bit backwards there from that, then what I am actually a blacksmith. You say, so what? Well, well, we don't need horseshoes done. We need a bridge done. So yeah, okay. One of the main things that a blacksmith worries about and works with is metallurgy. How metals from different time periods work. For instance, wrought iron works completely different than early steel. Early steel works similarly to modern steels, to A36 mild steel, but is not quite the same thing. And I would liken it to stainless steel does not act like steel. It's a different thing. It works differently. You work it at different temperatures. You handle it differently. Well, so I'm the guy that knows how those old historic materials are handled. So I come in, so I've been doing blacksmithing for 46 years now. I started when I was 11. We lived on a small farm when I was a kid. My dad worked 2 jobs. My mom worked 2 jobs. They're both school teachers and then had a restaurant in the evenings. And that small farm kind of sat there. And Dad was always having trouble with machinery breaking down, all that kind of thing. And did not have, he's a great carpenter, but mechanical ingenuity and such was not his thing. When I showed any interest in it, you go for it, you know, push me along, go for it. So I started out working on a lot of historic machinery, not because it was historic, but it was because it was all we had. We had horses. I don't know why, but we did. And we had horse-drawn machinery, and that horse-drawn machinery was a lot of times wrought iron. I found that, oh, gee, all these nuts just pop loose. They come apart. Even though they're over 100 years old, they're better than a modern bolt that's 5 years old as far as taking it apart. They're actually also, amazingly enough, with wrought iron, it's a different material, like I said, but it's very similar in strength to a grade 5 medium hardened steel bolt today. So it's not a junk material, but it is a material that works very differently than anything that we make today. And wrought iron itself, wrought means worked. So if you see something where that it's a wrought iron chair or a wrought iron this or a wrought iron that, it's probably mild steel. As long as it's been manufactured since World War II, it's probably mild steel, but it was worked. It was hand worked, it was machine worked, it was worked somehow, and they can say, okay, that's wrought because it was worked. So that's literally all that means. But metallurgically speaking, we haven't had any wrought iron made here in the United States since World War II. So about 27 years ago, the gentleman then that I apprenticed with through high school in blacksmithing, he had passed away, and I had taken his place in a local park, and was doing the demonstrating blacksmith. You know, I am a historical blacksmith. I'm the guy that's out there hammering on the anvil every day. So then we had a bridge that this park wanted to have moved into their park rather than going into Indianapolis. It was coming out of the local county, but it was going to go onto a trail somewhere else. And then the local park stepped in and said, well, we'd kind of like to have it, but it's in really rough shape. And so they looked around for different people to work on it. They got some astronomical numbers on restoring this bridge from construction companies. Because one of the first things they said was all the bolts in that particular bridge happened to be bolted together rather than riveted. And they were big bolts. They're 14 inches long and 3/4 inch diameter, and there were hundreds and hundreds of them in that bridge. And they said, well, the first thing we've got to do is go through and cut all those bolts. We got to throw all those away. And the park was actually going for a historical grant. And so the lowest amount of replacement that they got was about 60% replacement on the bridge, because we're going to throw all the rest of that away. Well, they wound up then having a historical guy, a professor of history, the chair of a college in Indiana that I've forgotten the name of. But he said, what we really need is a blacksmith, somebody that knows how these things are made, these individual pieces are made in this bridge, in order to be able to rebuild them or replace them in kind. So they look the same, they act the same, they don't act differently. They're not weaker than the original pieces because they're some kind of cobbled together thing. They actually work exactly like the original ones. And what we need is somebody like that. And they said, and the park said, well, we've got a good blacksmith. We can talk to him. And so I started with that bridge 27 years ago, ish. It might have been 28 years ago, but it's at least 27 years ago. The amount of things I said, if we have half of a member, half of an anything or more left, we're going to fix it. If it's more than half gone, we're going to throw it away. Or if it's just gone. Well, we wound up going through and restoring everything in it. And what we threw away fit in a 5-gallon bucket. By number of pieces, not by weight, because there was no weight to that 5-gallon bucket compared to that bridge. I mean, you know, it was maybe 20 pounds of stuff. A lot of what we threw away was not something that wasn't even there. But we had some stuff there, and that was 5%, less than 5% of the bridge we replaced. And I worked with volunteers as a paid guy doing the structural work, and the volunteers helping me in any way they could help. And they did a lot of painting, they did a lot of cleaning on it, they did a lot of that kind of thing. Disassembly on it once I showed them how to disassemble some of the bolts really would unscrew. You know, unless somebody believes that something can work, it cannot work. And I will also say that if you do this bridge from the same standpoint that everybody else does, you're going to get the same numbers as everybody else gets. What you need in order to have a bridge like this restored perfectly when it's done and get it in under budget, which is what I'm going to do, then you need to have somebody that really knows what they're doing. Well, I've worked on at least 200, more than 200 of these bridges, whether it was as a paid consultant or it was actually a full restoration or anything in between. I've worked on more than 200 of these. So you say, gee, he doesn't know what he's talking about. You may want to step back from that just a little bit and just think about it just a little bit, because I really do know this stuff. Now, our proposal, mostly through Art, because Art is our leg man. He's actually in a wheelchair, so he's our fancy leg man. But he has done all the preparatory work. I only come in once it's time to do something on the ground at the site. I'm doing that as my first time seeing the bridge here today. And it is a, you know, it kind of gets me a little bit. I hope that when everything is said and done, you guys are all friends again, because that's more important to be friends with your neighbors than what it is what you do with a bridge. All right. But as far as this bridge being restorable, it is, right now, it is not safe to have open. It is absolutely right. It is an eyesore, absolutely right. So would, for instance, a 1950s Buick in a junkyard. Now, if you take that 1950s Buick that is a complete eyesore that nobody in here would want in their yard, but you take it to somebody that can do a ground up restoration on it, take it completely apart, work on every nut and every bolt, clean every bit of it, paint every bit of it, put it all back together again as original, then you have something different. Then you have something to be proud of when you're done. Then you have something that you can get people excited about, and that the local people, when they come in, are going to say, wow, when they see that bridge, rather than, ooh, what was that thing? And this is a very reasonable thing to do. Now, the normal way of doing things is you come in with big equipment and lots of people, and you do, you try to do it as fast as possible and get on to the next job. You have people that have never worked on an iron bridge before, a lot of times. You have somebody in the office that did, but on the job site, you don't. You have to build a causeway out to the middle to pick up the crane, or with a crane to pick up the bridge and set it off. You have to deal with all the phone lines and electric lines on the side, usually to move them. I don't know for certain if that's the case, but I know that if I was dealing with a crane guy and I came into that job site, they would have a fit with me if I didn't have that electric moved. And then all the trees here on I guess it would be this side of that picture that you see the sycamore coming up from the very right corner. These trees are all going to have to be cut out because you got to be able to pull that bridge off of that site and set it over on the roadway in order to take it apart. And then once it's on the roadway, well, probably they're going to do a lot of demo over the stream. They're going to do a lot of holding it up with the crane to do that. And then they're going to set it off. Then they're going to do more demo on the side of the bank. I don't really watch that much demo, so I don't know exactly. But I know that dealing with crane guys, they're very particular about what you can get away with. So this is going to be a huge environmental impact to put out the causeway, to cut all the trees, to move all the electrical. And in comparison to that, when we have dealt with DEP before, doing the same work in Pennsylvania, they have been very thrilled with having us do our holding it up with stilts that are adjustable in height, and then taking it apart in place, setting it over, and then putting it on trucks and taking it away. There's no real impact. We don't go through the stream bed. We set on top of the stream bed with a spread footer. We'll know exactly how many pounds per square foot that footer is, and it will follow DEP guidelines for those things. We have also, see, what we're actually proposing is a design build. So usually you will farm this out to an engineering company. Engineering company will say, oh no, not another iron bridge. These things are always awful. They're always different. Every one of them throws you a new curveball, and they do. And they're usually a money loser.
Well,
and they don't like working on them, but some people will. And so they've got to engineer it, and they got to engineer it the best they can. They're not a blacksmith. They don't know how the original material was made. They don't know what the original material is a lot of times. This particular bridge is an 1898 bridge, so it's a composite bridge, meaning that there are parts of it that are steel and parts of it are wrought iron. It was the changeover time from wrought iron to steel. And so the tension members in it are wrought, and the compression members in it, parts of the compression members in it are steel.
Ross, I think
I'm
we're
sorry.
over the
Okay.
limit, so
Well, thank you very much.
so thank you.
If you have any more questions, I would be glad to answer them. Thank you.
Thank
If
you.
I could just ask Mr. Fairchild,
Yes.
just a real quick question.
Sure.
I'm sure. I just had a real quick question for you, Mr. Brown. Will a PE, a professional engineer, sign off on this project?
Yes, that's part of the design build. A Pennsylvania approved professional engineer, engineering company, I should say, will be signing off on it for whatever weight capacity we're dealing with. And then they will also have to deal with the PennDOT for negotiating all that stuff. All right. And we've already talked to PennDOT. They're already in agreement with us on how to do it, or they have agreed to do it the way we want to, minus a couple things that were not a huge deal.
Thank you.
You are proposing not to bring in a crane, take down the power line, cut the trees in. You're proposing to take this bridge apart in place.
Is that, am I correct?
Yes. Yes, we are not. What I'm saying is that probably in the demo, you're going to get into a little more stuff than what you really want as far as tearing stuff up and out there. In any case, it's usually how it goes. And we are usually minimal impact. So you don't really notice that we're even around. There's some rat-a-tat-tat when I'm doing some rivet busting, air hammer, cutting off rivet heads and pushing out rivets. But other than that, usually nobody really notices I'm there.
Good. Okay, so I'm last, and I think, what do they call that, cleanup, or is it the cleanup? So I might repeat a few things, but I hope it just reinforces what's already been said, and I'll try to move quickly. I'm Janice Links. I'm the Executive Director of the West Shore Historical Society. I'm also on the Board of Trustees of the Cumberland County Historical Society, who we work very closely with. West Shore Historical Society is the recognized historical society for 7 municipalities on the West Shore. And some of you know that we would love to add Upper Allen to the municipalities we represent. So I can share some information about my personal experience with the wrought iron bridge works and some information about costs involved with owning a bridge. And I'm going to give you some background. That's a picture of the Sheepford Road Bridge in Lower Allen Township. I became the executive director of the West Shore Historical Society through my work as one of the founding members of the Friends of Sheepford Road Bridge. And I led the successful Save Our Bridge campaign on behalf of our bridge, which began in 2019. So we're approaching the 7-year mark. Our bridge was set to be demolished. Instead, it's currently being rehabbed for pedestrian use through the PennDOT TASA funding program that you've heard a little bit about, Transportation Alternative Set-Asides, in the amount of $1.4 million. In addition, we worked with PennDOT to get an additional $600,000 for a budget of $2 million, and that came from, I believe, CARA's fund. The project is expected to be completed this spring, at which time ownership of the Sheepford Road Bridge will be transferred from York and Cumberland counties to the West Shore Historical Society. So you imagine a township considering whether to take ownership. We're a small historical society. The story of our bridge had many twists and turns, as has the story of the Bishop Bridge. And I often say these bridges want to be saved. In the early days of our campaign, I was contacted by Art. I thought it was Secour, but I'll take the Secour with that last name. He saw an article about us in the York Dispatch and reached out to me. And he served as our advisor, providing much knowledge and support for our efforts. In October of 2020, York and Cumberland counties gave the Friends of Sheepford Road Bridge 2 years to come up with a plan and the funding to save the bridge. So we worked with Art to come up with a rehab plan, and we're identifying funding sources for his estimated $550,000 at the time. The county estimate was 1.1 million. However, we soon received word that York County was willing to submit an application for the TASA funding if West Shore Historical Society was willing to be the new owner of the bridge upon completion of the rehab. So the deal was struck, The application was successful, and ultimately, it's Kinsley Construction that was awarded the contract. It has been great to work with Kinsley, and they're doing an excellent job, but they do not use the same process as the wrought iron bridge works. So ultimately, their successful bid for the contract was 1.73 million, and a large portion of land needed to be cleared. And you could show the next slide. 32 trees were lost, and that is the area, it's actually my property, that they cleared out and placed the bridge on after it was lifted by a crane so that it could be taken apart. And it took somewhere between 4 and 6 weeks, I believe, to take it apart. I think the original estimate was 4 weeks, but they went a little bit over on that. And the next slide. Right, so, and that's more of what it looks like now. The metal is no longer there, but the bases are there for when the bridge is returned. It will be rebuilt on those wooden blocks and then lifted again over the water in one piece. So that's an example of what clearing for a crane can look like. I first became aware of the Bishop Bridge in 2020 when I was doing research on behalf of Sheepford. Both bridges were on York County's Bridge Plan D list. Kurt was mentioning that before. The D list includes all the bridges that would be used until they failed inspection and there was no further funding available to them. So in January of 2022, I drove out to the Red Mill Bridge and I met Ross for the first time. He was single-handedly taking apart the bridge in the snow, in the middle of winter, no cranes, just a lift in the creek. You could show the next slide. So there's one picture, and you can see along, yeah, you can see it's not, nothing in the environment had to be changed. Everything was done, lifted from underneath. The next one. There's another shot of it. And I think there's one more of, there you go. So that was all that was done to the surrounding properties. I took all of these photos and some more, and I met then with former Cumberland County Commissioner Vince DiFilippo at Panero's one morning for coffee, and I showed him these photos and the new and different way, less expensive way to take care of these bridges. He did go back to the county staff at the time with the information I provided and came back with a suggestion that the Bishop Bridge would be a good match for LSA funding, the local shares grant funding. So that is something that came from a county commissioner that could be an option moving forward. I wasn't the owner of the bridge, and so therefore I could not apply for that grant, and I was a little tied up with our bridge. But I've been following along ever since. I've attended meetings with your former township manager and staff, have discussed the bridge with County Commissioner Jean Fauci, Commissioner Fairchild, Commissioner Walsh. I've met with Commissioner Smith, I want to get the last names, and I've spoken to Commissioner Clark on the phone. So your question might be, why all the fuss about these old bridges? And it's been stated, but it's simple. They are an important part of our history, part of what attracts people to our area. So important that PennDOT has separate funding for them, a Metal Trust Bridge newsletter, a marketing website to try to find new owners when the bridges are no longer wanted or needed in their current location. There are national organizations such as the Historic Bridge Foundation, groups for bridge enthusiasts such as historicalbridges.org and the Bridge Hunter Chronicles. These bridges are special. The technology used to put them together, like a giant erector set, and the ability to take them apart and put them together again was groundbreaking. And they're also beautiful. You have a treasure in your township. I would say the county should be commended for its prior preservation efforts on behalf of these metal bridges. We mentioned the Green Lane Farms Bridge. We met with those people, even though it was decades ago, they met with us when we were first working for the Sheepford Road Bridge. In 2017, ownership of the Craighead Bridge was transferred to a private owner with the help of the now defunct nonprofit Working Bridges, and the Sheepford Road Bridge being transferred to the West Shore Historical Society. And now here they are trying to work with you to find the best solution for Bishop. So I mentioned a little bit about costs. As we were considering whether or not we could afford to take on ownership of a bridge, And the answer was no, but we're still did it and we're working on it. We had an engineer provide us with a spreadsheet of costs over a 20-year period. And I have provided a copy of that to your township. I would be happy to share it again. But in 2021 dollars, the cost of owning the bridge over a 20-year period is $16,800 per year, which included insurance, maintenance, inspection, 10 years spot painting, and 10-year in-depth inspection. That's to make sure that 5 or 10 years in, you suddenly didn't have to come up with $50,000, but you were saving for that all along. So that was our goal. For a township, the cost would be much less. We don't have a Department of Public Works or any staff that could do any of these jobs for us. However, you have access to those. So it would seem that with all the township's resources, you're certainly in a much better position to take on ownership of a bridge than a small historical society. And I would say we recently lost our president, Don Paul Scherer recently passed away, but his quote has always been, "History once lost can never be replaced." So I hope you'll all consider that, and thank you for hearing me out.
Thank you, Candace.
So we will start with our public comments. And the first one signed in is Scott Steffen, and then it would be Eric Clancy after Scott.
I'm gonna move this, no mind. A little bit of room to speak. My name is Scott Steffen. I'm at 21 Conway Drive. For those that are new as a commissioner, congratulations for your appointment. I've lived in the township here now for 26 years and have raised my children here. And I've currently served on the planning commission for about 10 years. I've designed and built projects, significant projects at both Fisher Park and Winding Hills Park, and have been part of this township and involved in government for at least 10 years, since I believe 2012. So I want to begin tonight with informing you and also the audience the state of our bridge. I'm going to start off on a bit of a negative note, but I want to end with a positive note on this. So hear me out. Did you know that this bridge cannot be accessed from Cumberland County? You have to go through York County to get to the bridge on both ends. This bridge and where you access it is was used, thank you for using the word, peninsula of land in this township, and it serves 6 people. If this bridge were to be opened, it would actually be used it would serve more of York County people than Cumberland County people. Check it out, it's accurate. So the people that are going to be passing through it, you've got 6 or 7 residents that are going to be served by it, and it's going to be used more so by York County. So did you also know that, and I'm going to move on to my next point. So I took the time and I got some pictures of this, and I want to show some of them to you tonight, because I work in structure. My job is to professionally design systems that are rigged safely above people's heads, that are very heavyweight and will kill people. So I wanted to take the necessary time to see what is this condition of this bridge. So I just want to walk you through a few pictures here that I took. I took 140 pictures, but you're not going to get 140 pictures tonight. So if you can advance to the next, this is the foundation of the bridge. And what we have, next one here, completely rusted. Next foundation of the bridge. And I will say that none of these pictures are repeated. Continue, please. This is the base of the bridge here almost doesn't exist any longer. This is a hole in the structure of this bridge. Continue, please. Again, there was a bolt here, hanging, holding a cross member, no longer attached. Again, another hole in the, structure of the bridge. Continue, please. And once again, another foundation here. There's absolutely nothing left of the steel in this section of the bridge. Continue. Here is where the bolt still does exist, but is pulled at a bent tension. And there's also holes here. Continue, please. There's barely anything left of this structure here. In fact, in the past, there was structure added here that that is under full tension in order to keep this from failing. This is not an original addition. You can see the rust here, deterioration here, and here. These members are in a state of failure. Continue, please. Next page, please. Again, and next. Again, next, please. And there also, this bridge is in terrible shape. I'm gonna keep going here. Again, here. Continue, please. Holes completely in structure, and continue. Entire members that are gonna have to be replaced. The condition of this bridge, I just want to show a few more pictures and I'm gonna move on. Next, please. I do want to say this is more than just a steel structure renovation. We do have foundational breakage here and failure. Continue. The next slide, please. Again, here, I did not get pictures of the other side of the bridge, but there's a definitive crack, not in the joints, but straight through the rock itself on the other side of the bridge. And this structure here is all in a state of failure. Continue. This is the underside box beam of it. That is delaminating, which is when steel begins to come apart. Next, please. Again, same thing. Interestingly enough, this bridge was renovated at one point in time and concrete was cast here. In modern methods, we never cast concrete with steel into concrete. The calcium will disintegrate it. So this here is where foundation work will have to be done. It's just not a structure that's going to lift it off with a piece of steel. Continue, please. And again, these here I saw at the site, and for the sake of time, I'm not going to go through it. I saw, dare I say conservatively, no less than 50 holes throughout this. So what I'm saying here is this bridge salvageable? I'm not going to argue. We're all good at our craft and everything, and I appreciate your presentation. However, we're at a place where we stand alone in our township here, and York County's not interested in it. Montague Township is not interested in it. Cumberland County is not interested in it. And I wish this bridge had the renovation of this bridge had taken place 40 years ago, because this is in a deep state of failure.
Scott, you're pretty much over your limit, just so you know. So
I understand. I do respect that. I do want to get to
appreciate the pictures. That was informative.
As you see, the foundation is failing. To suggest that it's only a $1 million project is, I want to be respectful, inaccurate. I'm not saying that your bid is inaccurate or anything like that, but there is more to it. There's and anybody that serves in a role in the township needs to, I am recommending that there needs to be a specification by which they are held to, and as opposed to an independent bid. And bids also need to be considered as multiple bids. I don't know if we have received only one bid on this project here, and you can speak to that later. However, I want to quickly.
All right.
So yes, ma'am.
Thanks. I want to be respectful of everybody else's time too,
Yeah,
because I know we
so-
have people
so
who
the-
want to speak. But can I just ask one question very quickly? Is this significantly different, Mr. Brown, from what you have seen with other bridges that you've worked on? A simple yes or no?
Absolutely not. This bridge is a closed bridge. This bridge is a closed bridge. It should have been closed. It should be closed. But when you do a full restoration, you go through every nut and every bolt and every piece of it, and you rebuild it. You also have inspectors inspecting the whole time. So there's a whole myriad of different things we can do with inspection. But certainly, PennDOT's going to have to okay it. You guys have to accept it once I'm done with it. So we've set it up so that if we get done with it and we did not do the job that you expected us to do, then we don't get paid. Okay?
Okay, thanks.
So,
Thank you very much.
Commissioner Fairchild, I respectfully say, you have given these people here 10 minutes, 15 minutes, 10 minutes, 10 minutes. You spoke for 15 minutes, you spoke for 8 minutes, and you're giving us 3. I spent, I've spent no less than 8 hours preparing this, and I'd like to present to you something that would work for here. And I'm asking.
We have a lot of people here, Scott.
I
and
understand
think
that.
could
You have
Possibly
now
come back to the
taken-
second round.
You have now
Okay.
taken an hour and a half to get to me, for me to be able to prepare a presentation here. So I'm asking for you to give me the opportunity to present a plan that would work for you, that could bridge between the fiscal responsibility that we have on one side of the aisle and the desperate need for historical preservation that we have.
So why don't you write up something and submit it as written comment, as an addendum to what you've said. What's that?
Maybe you can come back to him now.
Yeah. I think we just need to move on to Mr. Clancy at this point.
I'm very disappointed.
And
I'm sorry that
after
you got-
Mr. Clancy, it's showing Klein Peter. I don't know if that's you, Mike, or your father. So you'll be after Mr. Clancy.
Eric Clancy, 53 Emlyn Lane. I'm a taxpayer in Upper Island Township. For every allocation of public dollars, township leadership should go through a prudent assessment of cost benefit. My comments on January 5th referred to the fact that Upper Island's taxpayers bear a high tax burden. As context, Hamden Township's gross millage is 67% of Upper Island's. Not necessarily a crisis at this point, but know that additional allocation of tax dollars makes a difference. These taxes fund services that every homeowner enjoys, every resident enjoys. Priorities are critical. If we're to believe that this project can get public funding, support, grants, we also must realize that funding programs will want to know that that is the township priority to the exclusion of others. Public funds, grants, are complicated and are significant requirements to advance a credible application. You can always put paper in the system. It's about getting something back in a positive fashion. Most grants require some form of benefit assessment, who benefits and how, and require a cost estimate to complete. In other words, cost benefit. With respect to the cost of this project, there are certainly many questions. To this day, the township doesn't have a plan vetted and approved by PennDOT for the bridge's use, pedestrian or vehicle, designed to accommodate that plan or contractor bids based on the PennDOT approved design package. Bridges are very expensive to rehabilitate. The reason PennDOT typically replaces them. They utilize better foundations. The foundation here is a significant consideration. Modern materials, a wider cartway, and critical overall safety to better accommodate that are better accommodated in a new structure. I don't believe it's outside the realm of possibility that a drivable restoration of the Bishop Road Bridge could be in excess of $5 million. Be slow to disregard this with no tenable design at a PennDOT compliant standard or rigorous DEP environmental standards and permitting in hand. Any township funds should certainly require prevailing wage, contractor's insurance and bonding by the vendor as it would for any other project, even if we're going to pave a street. Much of that is required by law to expend public funds. The Bishop Road Bridge is certainly old. It is arguably quaint. The bridge does not create or support any economic activity, and there has been no detriment to the township since its closure many years ago. In fact, a new safe and sound alternative bridge provides access to the 6 or 7 homeowners less than half a mile away. So, after years of discussion, there's no path forward that doesn't expose the tax base of this township to an undetermined significant burden. I would suggest that the board have the bridge documented, including high-resolution drone video and saved in both the Township Archive and Public Library. Have the steel structure removed and stored. Raise private funds, the expenditure of which would be unencumbered by most regulation, and have a restored steel structure reassembled in the new park, making a part of the trail system and accessible to pedestrian and bicycle traffic. Don't have to worry about foundations to the same degree. That concept is not inconsistent with the rescue of the 1867 covered bridge at Messiah University, which was purchased by Mr. and Mrs. Jacob Stoner. Thank them for their foresight, and relocated after a fire in 1970 from a prior Bishop Road crossing of that creek only 2,000 feet away from the bridge being discussed this evening. That relocation and restoration and subsequent maintenance was done with private money. The bearing structure is concrete, making it safe. The wood above the roadway deck has no structural contribution to the bridge in that case. It is cared for, beautifully placed, and certainly a regional landmark. I believe there's a path forward with this issue. Access to other people's money, taxpayers, does not mean the board should add to a collection of old things. This does not require the board to burden Upper Allen taxpayers. Thanks very much.
Thank you. It will be Mrs. LaFond after Mike.
I would also just quickly like to note that the bridge you referenced is also in the center of our township logo.
So good evening, commissioners. Thank you for the time. Thank you for putting this forum on, and thank you for gathering a panel of experts. I think the information was certainly helping to inform us. For those that don't know, I live at 104 Bishop Road. My house, you can see just through the trees there on the right-hand side. I've been a resident here for over 21 years. And I have followed this from 2014 until today, and can share some perspective I think that others may not have. First and foremost, I don't think we would be in this room having this discussion if this was not an old bridge. If we had a bridge that had to be removed from this location, there would not be a need to put a bridge back. It would not happen. Not with a low traffic count, not with the emergency access road that's been installed, and with the other bridge that has been installed 15 years prior. So the only reason we're in this room right now is because of historical preservation. And when we talk about what that historical preservation is going to cost us, I think we've had a lot of good examples of that. We've had a lot of testimony tonight, but some things that have come out crystal clear to me is if in fact the true desire of the board, which has been communicated in previous meetings, was that this would be returned to vehicular use, even though it's not needed, that it would require PennDOT approval. It would require a structural adequacy at a minimum. And one of the first questions I would have is, how many bridges has your firm, WIBW, done in Pennsylvania with PennDOT approval for vehicular use?
Zero.
Zero.
Now, what we.
That's all I needed to hear. Zero. What scared me the most when you came up here and said, that's the first time I've seen the bridge, was today.
Yeah, it is.
I'm a contractor. I'm a commercial contractor. I do this for a living, 25 years. Worked on historical projects with your firm that are on the National Register. I know what's involved. I would not think of submitting a bid without looking at a project previously. No way. Let me finish, please. You had your time.
Absolutely.
No way. When you tell me that a bond rate is 10%, I can tell you that some of our worst subcontractors, their bond rates are 3% at the highest level. When you have a bond rate of 10%, that tells me you have either significant financial issues or zero capital in the business, and it's not a business. Just an observation. So I just make those points that these are things to be fiscally responsible we need to be looking at. Those are things that we cannot, as a board, as a community, just ignore. So I certainly would ask that as you evaluate this, as you evaluate the need, is this something that the township really needs? I appreciate Eric's perspective on it. If this is something that we truly want to preserve, let's take it down, let's store it, and let's preserve it somewhere else that the rest of the township can actually enjoy it. The fact that we see less than 200 vehicle trips a day when the bridge was open just shows you that the bridge did not get used. And it's not going to get used if you preserve it. It's not going to become a destination point that all of a sudden people are going to be able to flock to because there's really no way to get to it. That road is a deed restricted road. When the township accepted that road, they signed off on deed restrictions that said no loitering, no parking, no creek access. That means you cannot put a parking lot down there. You cannot have parking access on Bishop Road. So there is no way to get to this bridge. So with that, I'll conclude my statements. And again, thank you for the time this has been.
So we have Mrs. LaFawn and then Jeff Williams.
I'm afraid I'm here on the preservation side.
Excuse me, Mrs. LaFont, could you?
Sorry. I'm here on the preservation side, and I don't have any engineering experience. And this is a note that I wrote to Alexis. I'm just going to read it. As a longtime resident of Upper Allen Township and a former member of the Historic Architectural Review Board, I'm strongly in favor of township taking possession of Bishop Road Bridge and restoring it. I believe this structure is an important symbol of our heritage in this community and deserves preservation for the future generations. My husband, Ed LaFond, who died in 2015, and I have been residents of the township since 1972. We restored an historic home here. Our backgrounds were both in the museum and preservation fields. We both were on the staff of the Historical and Museum Commission in the 60s. Ed in architectural preservation and as developer of the Pennsylvania Register of Historic Places, which I think has gone through many name changes. And I was an assistant curator of fine arts at the State Museum. Ed was involved in saving the remains of the Walnut Street Bridge in Harrisburg after it was damaged by ice in 1996. So, you know, we've been through some experiences. I ask that the township please consider and accept this proposal to purchase and restore this important piece of township history. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And after Mr. Williams, we have, I think, Scott Campbell. No, Scott Christie.
Good evening, Jeff Williams, 334 East Meadow Drive. You know my feelings on the bridge. I don't think we should acquire it. I think you're dealing with maybe money. Maybe there's a grant. There's certainly a lot of funds that you can access now that you're commissioners, all of you. My concern obviously is parks. And that dedicated tax fund is something I don't believe you should touch. And at this point, since you know where I'm coming from, I would like to give the balance of my time to Mr. Stefan because I want to hear what his possible solution is. Y'all want to hear what Scott has to say? Thank you. Hey.
What I propose here tonight, and I'll be quick and I'll be brief, is to take this bridge, let them still own it, let them take it down, but not demolish it, salvage it. Have an engineering firm, perhaps even him, identify pieces that can be saved. Take this bridge and have an engineer, perhaps even him, design it to quarter scale. Put it in one of our parks, which there's at least 3 places in our parks where a bridge would be benefited. Here's what it does for us. It gives the bridge purpose. So now it has a place where it serves our community. Secondly, it brings it out of obscurity. Nobody knows where this bridge is. My wife has lived, we've lived here. My wife has been here for more than 50 years. I had to take her to the bridge because she never knew where this bridge was. And she only ever lived 2 miles away. It is fiscally responsible because the preservation of this will be a fraction of the cost. But it also, it speaks to our historical significance. You can put up a monument there in one of our parks. It says, thank you to the residents of Upper Allen Township who considered this to be a historical preservation of importance, and to the leadership and to the commissioners here, and you each can put your name on it. What I'm saying is, the operational costs here into perpetuity are fractions of what you're going to have to put into a bridge from now till the end of time, until this bridge is demolished. The most beautiful thing about this is cooperation. Having spoken to a member of the engineering department at Messiah University, and I choose my words very carefully, and please do not misquote me, and do not let the media misquote me, because I don't want Kathy Schaefer to give me a call tomorrow. And that is, they are always looking for, the engineering department and the students in the structural engineering are looking for opportunities to be able to contribute in the community. Allow them to come up with a bridge concept, be part of this. And what we can say on that plaque is, thank you for the cooperation of our friends such as Messiah University to be able to come together as a community. As a new board, I'm asking you to lead with vision and creativity that inspires and unites with a great opportunity to do the better thing. That it brings it into the bridge is saved in small part, but yet the history of it is put in a prominent place, and the history can be told on a plaque such as that'll last for greater than 50 to 100 years, aside of the bridge, on either side of the bridge. And we all benefit and we all come together as a community. It is fiscally responsible, and we also address preservation at the same time. Thank you very much.
Mr. Christie? Yes, okay. The next speaker after Mr. Christie is Kellen Martin, Urtsler Road. Yes.
Good evening.
Hello.
I just have I'll be under 3 minutes, so I just have a few comments regarding the process. My name is Scott Christie. I do have experience with bridge design, inspection, and construction, and I am retired. I do part-time work for consultants, but I was formerly the chief bridge engineer for PennDOT and had many other positions, and I was eventually the deputy secretary for PennDOT. But I'm not speaking for PennDOT right now. I'm just as a person, engineer that's still involved in some of the processes. I wanted to go through 3 overall comments that I had for the process. First, this is a closed historic bridge, and the inspection, and you saw from the pictures, has noted many issues of deterioration. And I do see that preliminary cost estimates have been made and completed, but I would offer the following 3 items I believe the owner of the bridge has to consider as a decision to make and keep the bridge in service is being made. First and most important is you have to do an up-to-date bridge structural analysis to be completed to outline all the work that has to be done. I know CS Davidson has done work, and inspections have been done, but when you go into the final process, you have to have an up-to-date inspection highlighting all the deterioration of all the different members that have been, that has happened. So that has to be done. to ensure that the rehabilitated bridge will then have the structural capacity to safely carry either pedestrians or vehicles in the future. This becomes, when you do the inspections and then you take a look at it, this becomes the basis that for the scope of work that the engineer will have to do to design the rehabilitation details that are required to have that safe bridge. You have to have an engineer take a look and design those details that go into the final details for the safe bridge when you put it together. Then after the decision has been made on those details, the design of those details, the members all go together and a final structural analysis is done to determine the safe load carrying capacity of the bridge, depending on what you're having to carry, pedestrians, vehicles, and how high the load carrying capacity is. Second, you do have to coordinate with all the historic entities that are involved in it to make sure that any of these details that are being proposed to strengthen the bridge are acceptable in terms of the historic nature of the bridge. The engineer just can't do whatever they want. They have to have and coordinate the details with the historic societies to make sure that everything meets the qualifications. And then last, as you go through the process, you will find that the rehabilitation is going to cost more than a typical new bridge would cost. That's just generally the process that's always happened. The preliminary cost estimate I saw was over $2 million. In the experience that I've had, this is typically on the low side when you're going into it, because normally as you take apart the bridge and then you store it and then take a look at it, even when you saw the details that are up there, you'll find more and more deterioration has occurred. And you saw some comments on the foundations too. When you take the foundations apart, you'll find more and more problems that have to be taken care of. So a preliminary cost estimate right now is likely not seeing all the damages that the bridge has occurred. And so basically you have to, the final comment is typically knowing that you've got an estimate of around 2 million, the likelihood is it might be more than that. Even if it's not, that's what the owner of the bridge has to consider to keep it open. Now, I can tell you, I'm always in favor of keeping bridges open, but at the same time, you have to consider the proper budget when you do that. Thanks very much.
So a non-binding answer, but just from all your experience, which you obviously have, if we started tomorrow, the approval, the analysis, et cetera, how long would it take to complete a project like this?
Well, I mean,
if money wasn't an issue.
If money wasn't an issue, to be honest with you, the first step, you have to take a look at the process of the project.
Right.
The first step would be to get somebody to go out there as you were doing it. And I don't have a problem with it, but take the bridge apart like a lot of other entities have done. Take it apart so you can see and have then the engineer of record take a look at it to make an assessment of what has to be done.
It's not a 6-month project.
No, it's not a 6-month project, because I would say then all of a sudden the engineer then does the calculations and does the retrofit details to put it together. Okay. And so it'll take longer than that.
Good evening. My name is Kellen Martin, 902 Hertzler Road. I've come this evening to voice my opposition against taking up ownership of this bridge. Currently in Troop 190, I'm working on my Eagle Scout project. I staffed in the summer at a leadership camp. I know that being a good leader means to listen to all people, to yourselves, to your other leaders, to the people. And I feel that it's very important you listen. And I think in means of the bridge, this is a lot of money, millions of dollars. And as a future Upper Allen taxpayer, the new generation that's going to be rising, I'm going to need to pay my taxes, my money, the resources of this township on a bridge that who knows the next time it's going to break down. Who knows the next time it's going to have problems. It's a historical bridge. Great. Put it in a museum. Put it where it will have a meaning. I don't see a purpose for it here other than money, time, And that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Bill, you're coming up to, and the next speaker is it D. Gable?
Phil Martin, 902 Hertzler Road. That's my kid. I haven't been super involved in my local community as far as coming to meetings. Locally have had that interest, done that deep dive. Thought it was important for my son to be here. I have a 9-year-old daughter as well at home. Figured the meeting would go late. It'd probably be past her bedtime. But the reason I feel that's important is because, as he said, this is a cost that, you claim benefits many, but will be funded by few. Just our township. If the 2 counties involved, the neighboring municipality, they're washing their hands of it. They're hoping that we take it and incur that cost, and our kids incur that cost, and probably their kids. And when does it end? In that deep dive, I looked into, we have new commissioners here, congratulations. I looked into the Township Commissioner's Handbook. I didn't know such a thing existed. Really interesting read, if you're so inclined. Part of that on page 3, under the role of the commissioners, is because of your elected status, an individual in that position is often viewed as a community leader. Commissioners are the proper recipients of complaints, ideas, suggestions concerning township affairs. In many cases, the commissioner is called upon to perform as a problem solver, acting as an agent for township citizens with municipal or even outside agencies. The commissioner has a role in representing the township's communal interests, past, present, and future. On to the next section under conflicts of interest. It was interesting to read that township commissioners must carefully avoid the possibility of conflict between their personal and private interests and their role as public officers. The State Ethics Act states the people have a right to be assured the financial interests of public officers do not conflict with public trust. In any issue brought before the Board of Commissioners where an individual member has a conflict of interest or is an appearance of a conflict of interest, that commissioner shall refrain from voting on the issue. Pennsylvania courts have long upheld as a fundamental public policy principle the rule that a member of a governmental body cannot vote on any matter where that member has a direct personal interest. Under the next page 13, under quasi-judicial rule, the formulation of legislative policy involves full and free public discussion of issues, often with the commissioner vigorously acting as an advocate for a particular public policy approach or possibly spearheading opposition. Such activity is often a necessary part of the legislative process. However, when the board member is acting in a quasi-judicial role, a different pattern of behavior is required. In a case appealing denial of conditional use or of a site plan application, Commonwealth Court found the applicant's right to due process was denied by the participation in a vote of one of the council members who had actively opposed the proposal before it was brought before the governing body. His actions included speaking in opposition to the proposal at public hearings, writing to constituents on official stationery, expressing opposition, and encouraging the public to attend meetings to pressure council to defeat the proposal. And alleged trade voting with another council member.
The court held that because the council member's clear bias and actions against the proposal, allowing him to vote was a denial of the applicant's right to a fair hearing. The case underscores the need for commissioners to avoid the appearance of bias in cases where they're acting as a tribunal or performing a role quite different from the role of formulating public policy. Yes, that will put you to sleep if you read it at bed. But I went through it, and I bring this up. Sorry to put you through that. But I feel in this case, there are some people involved that are really treading on that line. Not only do the costs, liabilities, potentially lawsuits, could that be brought against the township and we're held liable for that as well when we're treading these lines? I have a few examples and then I'll give up my time.
How many examples? You're pretty much over your limit now. Can you submit a public comment?
Real quickly. The most important one, you know, on a public website, Commissioner Smith was quoted before she was, you know, in office here with the township, that she had already agreed to vote with Commissioner Fairchild and Commissioner Walsh. Before you've heard the view of the people, before you've heard the cost estimates, all these professionals in front of you, was that something that you participated in?
This is not a forum to disseminate misinformation. I
believe
we'll go on to the next speaker. You can submit it in writing, whatever.
It's from
I don't know if it's
the
here.
Save Upper Island Township.
Unless you were there. So we have is Mr. Gable here?
If anyone else is interested in my other examples, you can see me afterwards. Thank you.
Phil, you can submit it in writing. We have Mr. Brenneman. We do have Mr. Gable coming. Mr. Brenneman is after Mr. Gable.
Good evening, everybody. Dave Gable. I'm at 2209 Spring Run Drive. We've had a lot of information tonight, a lot of experts, information from the board also. And I think, you know, to break it down, you listen to all the people behind you here, and I don't know. I don't think there's much support for this project. It doesn't seem to really have a benefit from a transportation standpoint. There's a lot of questions on cost and overrun. And the biggest thing to me is we have precious other projects, other things that need to be accomplished in the township. There's talk about a reassessment on property tax. So there's a lot of things coming up behind us. And I think I would look to you to think, boy, is this really the way we want to spend all of our money? But thank you for your time.
Thank you. After Mr. Brenneman, we have, is there Albright? Karen, read that. Read. Cam Albright, perhaps. Or Ron? Sorry, Mr. Brenneman, go ahead.
Good evening, Paul Brenneman, 2020 Stumpstown Road. I'll be brief so I don't get cut off like some of my other residents have. Good evening, commissioners. Amazingly, I find myself in front of this board for probably the 6th time in the last year or thereabouts. We have a few new members, but the issue remains the same, an old relic of a bridge. I'll keep my comments brief. Mr. Clancy, Klein Peter, Ms. Hauer will, and former Commissioner Rigney will, and Parks and Rec Board Chairman, Mr. Williams, are much better at speaking and much more articulate than I am. I was amazed at the turnout last week, as of all the previous meetings combined, probably had less attendees than that. Time after time, I thought the demolition of this seldom used bridge that's been closed for nearly 5 years was settled, but here we are yet again. I hope the new commissioners don't fall to the pressure of Mr. Fairchild, Commissioner Fairchild and Commissioner Walsh. I don't believe they have the best interest of the 25,000 residents in our township at heart. Rather, I think they have their own self-stated agenda. Commissioner Fairchild has a self-proclaimed bucket list to drive his old jalopy across this bridge once it's restored. I don't know how that benefits our residents. Commissioner Walsh appears to want to save anything old, no matter its value. I'm not against preserving our township history, as my parents' house on our property dates back to the early 1800s. He frequently touts his Save the Bridge petition signed by many non-residents of the township, but he doesn't discuss the petition on the Upper Island Township group face page that last check was overwhelmingly against the bridge by a 15-to-1 ratio. The 1 to 3 million to rehab the bridge doesn't take into account the condition of the substructure or abutments. I haven't seen cost figures for the maintenance, inspections, or liability insurance. I've asked several times the cost of our residents of the $5 million bond that the county commissioners discussed at their December meeting if the township took ownership of the bridge. Lastly, I suspect the vast majority here tonight would rather see that enormous amount of money put towards a new fire engine, a squad truck, or perhaps another new one-man leaf collection truck, or even seed. That wasn't to be funny, or even seed money to start a much-needed compost facility. Thanks for your time.
Thank you. I think we have Mary Beth Yandas. Okay. Sorry, I butchered your name. Thank you. And then it's Bram. That's all I can
I have
read.
a very short
Okay, sure.
information. I was around when the Walnut Street Bridge failed.
Your name, please,
Mary Beth Yandrasitz,
and your address.
38 George Circle. Okay. I just saw the Walnut Bridge that failed, and I looked up how much it was cost to fix it. And in 1996, PennDOT had to pay $6 million. PennDOT paid $6 million to fix half of the bridge. And I couldn't understand why it would be $1 million to fix the bridge that we were talking about. So that's my concern, because I thought maybe there was some issues with actually going to get it fixed with that kind of money. That's it.
Yep. And then Barry Lutz is the next speaker. Following, is it Mr. Brown? Thank you.
Evening. Make this real quick. At the beginning, Jennifer had mentioned about the purpose of this meeting was to listen to what the residents want. Sounds like a smart idea to me. Being in business for over 30 years and not knowing, I'm not an expert at everything that I do, obviously. So I listen to people that know a lot more than me. And listening to people tonight who know more about the bridge, certainly, than I do, I think it's pretty darn clear. You people are intelligent people. Just listen. Smart people listen and learn. You got to put your own agendas aside, listen to what your residents want. That's all I have to say.
Judy Bailey.
Barry Lutz.
That was,
No.
oh, is Mr. Lutz here? I'm sorry, you were actually next, then you.
Said, as far as I'm concerned.
Okay.
You people need to listen, pay attention, and get rid of your own personal beliefs. I have one question. How many of the people on the commissioner's panel are the 6 or 7 people
Would you come up to the microphone and please, we're recording this and we want to make sure we get everybody. So if you could introduce yourself and your address, please. Thank you.
Barry Lutz, Cortland Park. I'm here to support the people, not the commissioners, because obviously you don't support the people. I have a question for you. How many of you are the ones that are affected by the bridge? They said it would affect 6, 7 people. Are any of you those 6 or 7?
Pay taxes here, so we're all set.
That's not what I asked.
You didn't.
Obviously don't understand
rephrased it
English.
to your own benefit.
Pardon me?
You rephrased it to your own benefit. I think the statement was 6 or 7 property owners.
No,
along
I said
Bishop
6 or
Road
7
would
people
benefit.
affected by the bridge. We've heard all evening that restoring the bridge would only benefit a handful of people, 6 or 7. Are any of you those people?
Absolutely. I pass under that bridge when I tube. That affects me. It affects the joggers, the dog walkers, the people strolling along with their kids.
That explains Eric's personal preference. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Steve Bailey, and then is it Nancy Crum? Or Judy? Is there Nancy?
Judy Bailey, 450 East Lisburn Road. I had a speech, but most things have been covered. I wanted to invite everybody to entertain the idea of forming our own historical society, probably under the guise of the West Shore Historical Society, because we have great people here and we have great stories to be told. And I think a lot of you are in this room that would like to tell the stories. However we tell the story of the Bishop Bridge remains to be seen. I think it's a beautiful bridge, and I think there is an economic value to the bridge. I can envision having a route along the Yellow Bridges where people would drive and follow markers of the historical areas along there and the beautiful areas along there that would involve crossing the bridge. There's nothing like crossing a metal bridge. Thank you.
Thank you. So if not Nancy, it would be Sharon Hauer, and then
Like Al maybe.
No comment.
Okay.
Sharon, okay. So Sharon Hauer is next. Yep.
Sharon Howard, 2479 Glime Drive. I've spoken before, you know my position. I was stunned at the photographs shared here tonight of the deterioration of the bridge. I knew it was bad, but never did I expect to see that. Thank you so much for sharing those. I have a 3-page speech. I want to hear the size. I'm not going to say 3 pages. I'm the one that posted the poll on the community page on Facebook. So I'll give those updated numbers as of 5 o'clock tonight. 69% of the respondents do not support taking ownership. 25% don't have enough information to make a decision, and 6% support ownership. So those are my updated numbers. If you're out there listening, you can still vote. So I'll take out of my 3 pages 2 paragraphs. This should not be a decision made based on emotion, sentimental value, or fond memories. This decision should be one made based on logic, public input, historical value, potential return on investment, and cost justification. I realize there's been a great divide on the board in recent years. I'm not trying to pick a side, as I'm hoping with the 2 new commissioners, congratulations, that joining the board, that a unified board will result. Only time will tell. And while historical preservation should be a focus of the township and this board, it should not be prioritized to a point that cost is not a major factor for consideration. Hopefully, this board will make a decision that is best for the township and a majority of residents, and not a decision that is self-serving. Cumberland County is represented here tonight. They have a vested interest in turning that bridge over to Upper Allen. They want to relieve themselves of that cost and that burden. I don't think we should take ownership. My opinion, what I saw here tonight, I saw that, in my opinion, I'm not an expert. That to me is far beyond repair while retaining that historical value. You're basically building a new bridge that looks like the old. I don't know how you can restore something that deteriorated and retain that historic value. I was shocked. I'm still shocked. And I think the cost is way understated. Thank you.
Don Miller, and then it's Mark Burkhart after John, if John's here. Okay, then we're down to Jim Cochran.
What about this follow-up?
Was Mark Burkhart? It's not.
Who said Miller, John Miller?
He didn't.
Okay, these guys are.
They didn't.
Oh, okay, sorry.
After Jim is Craig and Elizabeth Shearer.
My graphic.
Good evening, Jim Cochran, 384 Allison Avenue. I'm here tonight not to dwell on how we arrived at this point, but to chart a reasonable path forward, as several other people have discussed. To assist the board and the community, I've prepared a visual that organizes the conflicting information currently in circulation. I have the original source documents with me tonight, should anyone wish to review them. When evaluating the three estimates for the Bishop Bridge, we must consider the experience and stability of the firms involved. Wrought Iron Bridge Work, which I'll call WIBW from now on, was just incorporated in December of 2025, but claimed 6 years of existence as unincorporated before that. They appear to be a small operation. They listed only 2 employees when they submitted the original bid, and we have one of them here tonight, and operate primarily as a restorative vendor that subcontracts all engineering and restoration. So if you got 2 employees and something happens to one of them, you're in real trouble. Their solution, notably, was proposed for the Skinner Falls Bridge in northern PA, and it was rejected by PennDOT early in 2025. So that's the only experience I could find for a vehicular bridge with Wrought Iron Bridge Works. C.S. Davidson, our township engineer for over a decade, this is a 100-year-old engineering firm with approximately 100 employees, and HRG, Herbert Rubin Gliry, the Cumberland County engineer for over 10 years. This firm employs 350 people and recently created the design for the $2.2 million Schieffer Road renovation. There are significant discrepancies in the costs and scopes of the work presented. WIBW suggests $1.05 million. This proposal requires the township to transfer ownership of the bridge to WIBW along with the payment. I have serious legal questions about the legality of this. Furthermore, C.S. Davidson identified 13 significant technical concerns with this proposal that remain unaddressed at this time. It's also worth noting that in correspondence dated February 19th, 2025, Commissioner Fairchild described this firm's interest in the bid as a hobby and a demonstration project. C.S. Davidson has listed $1.07 million. This is a 2021 estimate, covers construction only. It excludes engineering costs, permitting costs, and mobilization, which typically add 30 to 40% to the total cost. HRG's estimate is $2.2 million. This is an all-inclusive turnkey estimate from the engineers who manage the county's bridge inventory and know Bishop Bridge probably better than anyone. The Hertha Road Bridge in Cumberland County serves as a cautionary tale. This is a bridge that the county repaired in 2022 after it closed it in 2018. The cost to repair it was $1.5 million. It was closed again in 2024 because there was new damage discovered, most likely from overweight vehicles. Current cost of those repairs is $170,000. This is the inherent risk of owning a weight-restricted iron bridge. The maintenance and liability never truly end. Since the county would require several months to secure demolition permits and rebid their demolition project, Upper Island Township has a window of opportunity. To act prudently, I suggest the following. Formalize the bidding. Direct C.S. Davidson to prepare professional bid specifications and post the project on PennBid. Perhaps then we'll get more than one single bidder. Establish the true costs. We must have a real number before what township accepts ownership. Once we take the bridge from the county, there's no turning back regardless of the cost. And then transparency for donors. If a Save the Bridge fund is actually to be created successfully, supporters need an accurate, vetted fundraising goal. One does not currently exist. By following this process, the commissioners can make a final decision based on a common understanding of costs and deliverables rather than conflicting estimates and hobbyist proposals. That's my comments. As far as the chart that's up there, I would say that it's hard to get some of the information on WIBW because they don't have a website. They did bid the Skinner Falls Bridge project under PennDOT, and the PennDOT refused to use them. And that bridge was subsequently taken down. C.S. Davidson worked on the Slade Hill Road Bridge, and HRG recently has done Sheepford Road and Hertzler Road. We talked earlier, one of the earlier speakers talked about the Historic Metal Trust Bridge Capital Rehabilitation Program. That was done in 2017, and in 2021, there was a new program came in with funding, $18 million. But there's a requirement there. In order to get into that $18 million, you have to have a rating in the Historical Metal Trust Bridge Management Plan as exceptional or high. The rating for Bishop Bridge is moderate. We've also heard that LSA money may be available. LSA money needs a sponsor from one of your local elected representatives, either a senator or a representative. The office of Representative Don Kiefer and the office of Thomas Kutz have both been contacted. Neither showed any interest in supporting this. So I'm not sure where that money is going to come from. Again, the estimates are there. If you look down at the reference amounts, Sheepford Road Bridge, that's currently underway. The contract is $2.2 million to turn it into a walking bridge, not a vehicular bridge. Hertzler Road Bridge, as I said, the county spent $1.5 million in 2022, and now they're going to spend another $169,000. And again, in both cases, Kintley Construction was the successful bidder. So I think we need some better numbers if we're going to move forward to take the bridge. And I don't have a problem with taking the bridge down and putting it in a park. But to say that the insurance numbers for a walking bridge like Sheepford Road and a vehicular bridge like this is proposed to be are the same, that's not true. Because vehicular bridges suffer from accidents and cars bumping into them, and they drive away, and they suffer from overweight drivers coming across them illegally. So unless you're going to post a police officer there 24/7, those things are going to happen. Thank you.
Good evening, everybody. Craig Shearer, 426 East Elmwood Avenue. First off, thanks to all the experts. Let's give it for the experts here tonight, because these guys, they educated me and everything like that. So I want to give it to these guys. Thank you very much for the history and everything like this. I got to say real quick, I'm not going to take long on this one. This has been going on for I've been a 30-year resident of Mechanicsburg. Yesterday, for the first time, drove out to check out Bishop Bridge, because I didn't know where it was. I had to go take a look at what all the hoopla was and everything that's been going on. And I got to tell you something. If this has been going on since 2014, these conversations and all this stuff and all the numbers and everything that's been going on, and if we hear from York County, Cumberland County, Monahan Township and everything like that, that nobody wants this. Nobody wants to take ownership of this bridge. I love history. I was a Civil War reenactor when I was a kid. I love history. I thought it's a cool looking bridge, everybody. There is no reason, though, to put money into this bridge. It makes no financial sense, no responsibility for us as taxpayers. That is just the wrong call. You need to make the right call. It needs to be done, not at the expense of the taxpayers. It's a great looking thing. I didn't even know the option was out there of potentially preserving part of it, putting it in the parks, having a quarter scale replica of that. Fantastic ideas. But to make this a vehicular bridge and spend millions of dollars makes no sense. And you need to know that and make sure that you listen to the people, because that is just wrong. Thank you.
So we have Jeff Green, and then it would be Rod and Karen Nesmith. Is Jeff here? I believe you're next then.
Well, thank you, commissioners, for the opportunity to be heard. My name is Rod Nesmith. I'm here on behalf of my wife, Karen, and myself. We signed up for 2 time slots to speak, and unlike some of my predecessors, we will be respectful of the time of the people assembled here this evening. And I have to say, I respectfully also disagree that no one wants this bridge. We live at 1118 East Lisburn Road, and our family has been in this township for over 80 years. And I wanted to offer a little bit of a historical perspective. Look at the things that have happened to our township in our lifetimes here. It is rapidly turning into Hampton Township too. The things that make Upper Allen Township special are disappearing. The orchards at Winding Hill, the Failer Farm. Look at what's going on in the Arcona subdivision over there. It's not in Upper Allen Township, but the Arcona Girl Scout camp, all segregated. All these parcels are torn up. They're either put into hundreds of little pieces or they're set aside for the select few. The things that we used to love about Upper Allen Township are disappearing. We used to have a little par 3 golf course in Upper Allen Township. We don't have that anymore. But now we got a Cracker Barrel. Yippee, we got a Cracker Barrel. It's the same Cracker Barrel that you get into in Florida and Texas, the same seating chart, same menu, etc. Does nothing to make Upper Allen Township special. But to the matter of the bridge is a finite point that we can change some of that. Some of us want to see these things preserved. The bridge at Messiah College is a perfect example of what can be done. We don't have to lose this structure. Once it's gone forever. And I know there are some people in this room that are counting on that, but once it's gone, it can't be replicated. When you look at what's happened at the bridge at Messiah through a combination of financing and funding, a really good thing was done there, and it's really become a community resource. And we and my family believe that that can happen with the Bishop Bridge. So today the commissioners are faced with a similar situation that we had with the Messiah Bridge. Are we going to simply tear down this historic Bishop Bridge because it's the easiest short-term solution and it benefits a few individuals? I hope not. Or, like our predecessors, are we going to gather the resources necessary to rehabilitate it and maintain a historic structure that can continue to serve the citizens of our township for many years to come? You know, I haven't heard once in here tonight. Every single person in this room stands on the shoulders of the people that came before them. Churches, synagogues, schools, libraries. I've attended many that I didn't build. They were built by my father or his father before him. We need to do things for the people that come after us. And the people that did Bishop Bridge initially, the people that built the schools that we go to, the churches that we go to, I don't believe that they had more resources than us. They got these things done. They found ways to get them done. I think the resources are out there that this can be done. This bridge can be saved. Now, I will say that I heard tonight from Eric, the idea that possibly taking it off site, disassembling it, putting it in storage until we come up with better plans or long-term plans, fundraising, whatever, new ownerships, put this thing in storage somewhere until we get a chance to get it rebuilt properly, put back in place. Our vote would be to put it back in place. We don't live on Bishop Road, but we see the benefit of having the bridge at that location. We would like it put back there. But I hope the township commissioners will vote ultimately to retain this bridge in some form, because frankly, I think it'll be a really sad thing if our legacy, when we're done here at the end of the day in Upper Allen Township, the Nesmith generation, your generation, what we've left for the people that follow us is a bunch of goddamn soccer fields and traffic circles. Honest to Pete, we don't need any more of that stuff in Upper Allen Township. Let's preserve a little bit of what makes Upper Allen Township special. And with that, thank you all for your time. I appreciate the opportunity.
Thank you, Ron.
Thank you.
So Paul Rigney, and then it's Hal Rogers, and it would be Ralph Kleinpeter. So Hal, do you wish to speak? And you'd be next, Ralph, after Hal.
Hal Rogers, 18 Greenway Drive. Thanks for the opportunity to speak here tonight. I'm a bridge engineer for a long time now. 31 years I spent with PennDOT. I have worked with a lot of these metal truss bridges. At one time, I was in charge of District 1 bridges, and I think we had 129 of these bridges in my district. That was a nightmare to keep up and running. So I love bridges, I love history, but there is a problem here. And the problem is trying to maintain this. I don't know if we have the money to do this. I'll be perfectly honest with you. When I look at it, I go, because I tore down one, replaced bridges, I restored bridges, I repaired bridges, I did it all. Okay? But sometimes at the end of the day, you got to say, what do we need to do to keep it up? And the big thing, one of the big things for me is that I'm looking at maintaining transportation with a finite amount of money. And I acted as an owner trying to manage that money. And I never spent extra money on something like this. I just didn't. I'm sorry. But as much as I like history, as much as I like these old metal bridges, I just really find I can't support this redoing this bridge. Not out of transportation money. If some fairy godfather or mother comes in and takes that burden away from us taxpayers, maybe not. But when I just heard that we have the highest taxes in Cumberland County, and then we consider spending money here, I really have a problem. Okay? Thanks.
And then it would be, I think, Ellie something. Is there an Ellie in the audience? She would be next. Okay. So.
Good evening. I was here last week, made some comments, so hopefully it won't be too redundant. Good evening. My name is Ralph Kleinpeter. I live at 103 Bishop Road. Across the street. I'm not as eloquent as my son speaks, but bear with me. So I have some prepared remarks. I have over 44 years of construction contracting experience on some of the most high-profile projects in central Pennsylvania. And it's my professional opinion that we must determine the real cost of rehabbing this bridge before any decisions are made. And the only way you can do this is to invite PennDOT certified bridge contractors to the table for competitive bidding. At least 3 bids minimum. I saw a copy of the RFP. I've responded to hundreds of these in my career. This makes absolutely no sense. It says design build, it says consultant, it says they're going to competitively bid, the low bidder is going to get the work. What is it? What is this document? It makes no sense. No wonder we only got one firm to respond. One. Unacceptable. Unacceptable. I'm totally uncomfortable with this. Yes. I don't know how the rest of the room feels. And back in February of 2025, Commissioner Fairchild said we have a fixed price proposal in hand to rehabilitate the bridge for pedestrian and emergency access for $850,000. Tonight, it's 1.2. Where does it stop? Kinsley Construction, right down the road, who's doing 2 of the county bridges. They have 1,000 employees. Do you think they know what they're doing? Do you think they know what the real costs of doing these bridges are? I think they do. And they're local. We're going to spend money here in Pennsylvania. They're right in our backyard. We got to go about it the right way. And as I said last week, I totally support taking this bridge. If you want to save it, a piece of history, put it in one of the parks. Currently, we have someone's guesstimate of cost, which have both been refuted by the township and county engineers. In that meeting last February, I think you questioned it. You said, this is too good to be true. I have it here in the minutes. I don't know what else to say. We're getting bamboozled here. We absolutely are getting bamboozled. If it's too good to be true, it probably is in my experience. The residents of Upper Allen Township should be protected by all means necessary when it comes to financial exposure if taxpayer money is being considered. Is it? That's the real rub for the majority in attendance tonight. There are so many other higher priorities in the township to consider rather than using millions of taxpayer dollars for a low-use bridge that serves primarily Montague Township and 6 houses in Upper Allen Township. And I'm one of them. I'm one of the houses. I'm one of them. Not to mention the forever maintenance and liability insurance costs that come with ownership of the bridge. Finally, why isn't Montague Township here? Why aren't they here? They're the real winners if this bridge is rehabbed. They are the real winners of this project. Thank you for your time tonight. I trust common sense will prevail with the newly elected commissioners. Thank you.
So we have, I believe, Joe Bitzer and then Debbie and Mike Getz. Oh, Ellie, I'm sorry. You were close enough to the hot seat, I guess that counted. I didn't see you. Sorry.
Good evening. My name is Ellie Stewart. I live in the borough of Mechanicsburg, but I grew up in the house on Bishop Road next to the bridge. I lived there from 1959 until 2002. I know that the people who live there now would be quite delighted if you removed the bridge, because the privacy that would afford is quite desirable. So there is a bit of self-interest in the argument from that point of view. I also know that Messiah College can be quite a valuable resource when it comes to preserving bridges, and you are quite right. When I first lived in that house, we drove across that covered bridge to get to my house. The covered bridge, though, as it has been moved, really is very little left of the original, and the person who observed that when you move a bridge and the original remains is not highly likely was correct, I believe. I would be in favor of maintaining the bridge where it is, with a weight limit that allows for a kind of limited access of some kind. It is, of course, a one-lane bridge, although 2 cars can quite easily pass if they are good drivers. Nonetheless, it is a one-lane bridge. But, you know, you can somewhat restrict access at that end of the Bishop Road. And you can leave open the option, as someone did suggest early in our meeting, to develop a park system where people can walk and bicycle and travel among parks. Certainly, I use Upper Allen parks on a regular basis, and I do so wish I could get from Simpson Park to Bishop Road, but the traffic prevents it. Actually, it would be possible to put a walking bridge where the old covered bridge used to be, as the foundation remains. In any event, there are lots of ideas that could be pursued in order to maintain the bridge in its current place. It is quite clear that funding avenues that go beyond the taxpayers in Upper Allen also need to be explored, so that there can be some kind of compromise. But abandoning the history as, what was your name who just spoke? Mr., your name begins with N. I quite agree. We need to preserve our heritage insofar it is still possible to do so in this part of the world. There are beautiful things, and there's a way of thinking when you inhabit a space that is historically constructed that you don't get when you build a copy. So those are my observations. Thank you very much.
Jo Ellen Bitzer, 607 Keswick Court. I would just like to thank everyone for their time this evening. I think it's wonderful that there are so many people here coming out for our township. The conversation has gotten a little emotional, I think, and that's understandable because people care deeply about our community, and that's a great thing. I think there's lots of things that we all agree on. One of those is public safety comes first. Another one is fiscal responsibility. And I do not believe for a minute that anyone that is sitting up here wants to saddle the taxpayers unnecessarily. They live here. They don't want to see our taxes go up. So I don't understand why people keep saying they think that's going to happen. I believe the people that are sitting up at this desk are going to make the right decision for this township. And I have every faith in you. And I would just like to say, I'm so happy. Our township is 54.6% women. So I am glad that we are now better represented. So thank you.
We have Debbie and Mike Getz. Then it would be Barry or Linda Strock afterwards.
Good evening. Mike Getz, 1117 McCormick Road. Excuse me. I'm going to fall on the side of this argument where I think it is incredibly important that we maintain some of the historical structures in the township that give us some character. Everybody has enough Chick-fil-A's and retaining walls and roundabouts, I agree. But there are certain things in the township that are worth saving. And I understand there are a lot of questions of the affordability of this. So I'm coming down on the side tonight of saying, if there is a way to deconstruct this bridge, to dismantle it, not to demolish it, but to dismantle it, to take it apart carefully, to save it, and to come up with the exact numbers that it would take to rebuild it, either in its existing location or somewhere else, then I would like to see us retain those options. Thank you.
Barry or Linda Strock? And I believe it'd be Jim Salter after Mr. Strock.
Yeah. Barry Strock, 815 Williams Grove Road. I've been a lifelong resident of the township. I was actually born on the Thaler farm and moved to Williams Grove Road when I was 2 years old. I've seen a lot of change in this township, and a lot of it I don't like. Agricultural land is disappearing, just disappearing. And I heard somebody say the other day, if you stand still long enough and up around, they'll pave over the top of you. And that's about right. I have never seen such development in this township as what we went through in the last 20 years. It's just ridiculous. I have a hard time pulling out on Williams Grove Road with my car, much alone an agricultural piece of equipment. Because if you pull out on Williams Grove Road with a tractor, you're almost getting run over every time you go out there. So I am disappointed in the amount of money that's being talked about here to restore this bridge. Nobody knows what this is going to cost to rehabilitate it and then in the long run. So it'd be like a piece of equipment I have on the farm and it's old, and should I repair it? And a lot of times you shouldn't. You should just walk away. Yeah, it's the piece of equipment that my dad used. It's got sentimental value, but it's not worth fixing. Thank you.
Good evening. Welcome to the new commissioners. Jim Salter, 8 Bradford Court in Upper Island Township, resident here for all my life. Kurt, just one thing that you said to begin with is what time frame or timetable are they expecting a decision?
As soon as practical. We have to work with PHMC, if we're going to move forward with the demolition of the bridge, we have to go through an entire process with PHMC to really rehash a lot of what we're talking about tonight. That'll take some time, that'll take some money. So we want to get a decision from the township on ownership so that we can proceed. If we have to get down that route, we get down that route.
Okay, because I know you mentioned about in early stages when you said about the peninsula, I was the fire chief at the time, and I'm the one that made, called that out in this meeting room that, we would strand residents there when I was the fire chief of this department or Upper Island Township. The other people, the other ones that were here, the PA Historic Risk Preservation, how much money are they willing to contribute?
There are grant programs, and we've given the information. There's a grant program for both planning and construction. And we've given information.
But zero money that you guys have really put aside for it. Grants are, you'd have to match or figure out ways to, how long can you get a grant? How long did it take? Yearly. So, I mean, if the commissioners are going to push you on that, or the county's going to push you on that, you need to make a decision on funding. This is your guys' letter here, Help Us Save Upper Island Township, Eric Fairchild and Walsh. And it says, 1, we have the experience, ethics, and vision. I hope you guys do. 2, we are true fiscal conservatives, underlined. This is your campaign thing right here. And 3, we pledge to be issue focused and bipartisan. I truly hope you guys stick to what you guys put in your campaign because everybody out here depends on it. You have to think about the township. Don't straddle us with unburdened tax. Thank you.
That is all the speakers that have signed in. Did anyone else want to speak briefly, hopefully, or not? Way back, somebody. So everybody needs to be brief at this point. I guess we're at 9:21 p.m.
Dan Dreyer, 416 Reservoir Road. Just want to start with a pretty simple question for you guys. You're in favor, I don't know who exactly is in favor at $1 million. Would those same people be in favor at $2.7 million, yes or no?
We're taking testimony. Thanks.
Okay. I asked that because both numbers have been presented publicly. If support depends on which estimate proves accurate, then cost certainty and financial risk are the real issues we need to address. I also want to just quickly acknowledge the generous aspect of this decision. Sadly, people my age really can't afford houses anymore. And if you increase taxes on younger residents, we become overburdened. We're going to delay buying homes, move elsewhere, and your future tax base is going to shrink. Sadly, that makes the long-term finances here less stable for everyone. Just want to explain a brief background on what I'm speaking from. So I'm not an engineer, I'm not in government. I work in banking and project finance, actually, and I worked on the Pennsylvania Bridge Rehabilitation Program, which was a statewide initiative in 2015 to replace hundreds of small bridges. In that program, the state did not rely on estimates alone. EPC contractors, or what they're called, they didn't just provide opinions on the cost. They contractually assumed the risk ahead of time through standard protections like cap pricing, performance bonds, and liquidated damages. If the costs increase or schedule is slipped, the contractor absorbs the risk, not the taxpayers, or in that case, not the project. So I asked Mr. Brown directly, that estimate that you provided, is that fully guaranteed? It would be a PennDOT guaranteed, and you would cover all excess liability above the $1 million estimate fully.
Yes. Okay, yes.
And you're confident in a $1 million estimate versus market standard engineer estimates of about 250% above that.
Right. So what we are proposing is a design build. So we are working with professional engineers that are licensed here in Pennsylvania to then present how the engineering works to, or work out the engineering with PennDOT. That's part of our bid. The abutments and repairing the abutments by a actual stonemason is part of the job. Okay, we have two lump sum bids, not bids, but lump sum. This is what we're going to charge. Right now, it is 400, and when I say right now, that means as long as it's no rules change on us. Like we want to make it a bicycle bridge instead of being a vehicular bridge. We're actually quoting it for vehicular use.
Correct. Okay.
That was a requirement from the board because they said just walking bridge isn't good enough.
Sure.
We want that. So it changes the railing system. Still can deal with the historical on the railing system. That's something we can work out. We've talked to PennDOT. We've got the rules of engagement here on this project. Until we get anything signed, then we don't have standing to go and get a permit for a specific permit. We just have verbal confirmation that yes, this would work because we are locked in to the total project cost. Okay, and that is broken down in two parts. One is taking the bridge apart such that it can be rebuilt and stored somewhere and can be put back up again. Second part is if everybody wants to do it, then is that we would take it back to Indiana. We would do a complete restoration on it. It goes through at that point when it's apart is when we have the engineers look at exactly what needs to be done to it. There are engineers that we've worked with before, and yet also work out here. So it's
would those incur additional cost overruns?
You guys should wrap it up.
I mean, this is
probably
important.
look at the
one versus 2.7 million.
You have looked at the RFP that they submitted.
It was garbage. I mean, quite frankly,
it was what?
The RFP was garbage. I mean, he's taking notes like on scribble paper here. It's not a serious bid. I mean, you can't take it serious. I love his passion. I love his enthusiasm. He's from a two-person company in Indiana. We have engineering firms, 2.5 million. That's 250% over. I love his passion. I think he's a great guy, but he's not a finance guy. He has nothing about numbers. I don't think you should take it seriously.
Yeah, a lot of those engineers have skyboxes at Penn State. So I doubt he has one. But anyway, I digress.
That's not even the point.
But when we wrap it up. Okay. Yeah, I know. Anybody else want to speak? Okay, anyone else with the? What do we do now? So we wanted to move on with a few questions by the board members of the panel, if they would like to. Whoever would want to start. Okay.
This is my first meeting. So it's a little overwhelming. A little bit more than I was expecting. I do just want to say a few things because I appreciate greatly the emotion in the room about this bridge, both for it and against it, quite frankly, because I love local government and I love when people are involved in local government. So I just want to preface my statements with that. One of the things that I want to clarify, though, was the gentleman in the back, when you asked for our votes, it was not meant to be rude for us to say no. We can't tell you our vote. There are rules associated with taking a vote. We would have had to advertise this meeting differently. I just say that so that there's open communication and nobody is trying to be evasive of your comments or your questions. And I do think that there's an opportunity. I feel a little bit for Mr. Brown. Some questions were directed to you. And I also want to be very clear that the answers that you give to folks from the community are important. But I don't want you or anyone here to interpret that as a response to an RFP. That would hold you liable in any way for what you said you were going to do or not do. If we were to get to that point, there would be a more in-depth conversation with you and a contractual type of agreement. Just a few things that were said publicly that had me a little bit concerned tonight that I wanted to clarify. But again, thank you everybody so much for coming out and being part of this.
If I could just add one thing to that, I think the people in the room should be aware that I believe it was Commissioner Clark that came up with the idea of this particular type of meeting. And I just want to applaud her for that because I think it was very, very helpful. Thank you very much.
I got them. All right, I'd like to thank everybody who arrived and spoke this evening, and also for all the people who participated via email. And there's people online that are watching this live. Local governance impacts our daily lives and our well-being. And effective planning and asset management assures that our resources are used efficiently and transparently. We're being transparent for our committed long-term benefits for our community. So I thank you.
I just have a couple follow-up questions for some of the panel, since you're still here. I really appreciate that. I never quite expected it to go this long. But starting with you, Kirk, we're trying to interpret, plans and specification, bid documents like many other people in the audience. And I couldn't fully understand the county bid result, for the demolition. I showed one slide where there was a causeway in the creek and a large area, a large work area. It implied a crane to me being required to lift the bridge and disassemble it. Yet the county had one bid. The low bid was 181,000. And then the next highest, I think it jumped to 273,000. So yet it appeared the county was comfortable with the low bid, but yet it didn't make sense in terms of what all was required from what we could tell.
That's why we hire an engineer. That's why HRG, I think their qualifications well stated. HRG is comfortable with the bid and their review of that in preparation of the bid documents. The county is comfortable with the low bid amount.
Okay. And this would be either to Kara or Tyra. There's, I think we know there's less than 200 of these bridges left in Pennsylvania. We don't have a specific number. But when people in the audience there's comments like this isn't rated as high as other bridges, to me, as the numbers diminish, they're all become more, less of them and more valuable that way as historic property.
Right. Some of the information here tonight actually. Some of the information that was given tonight, for example, that there are wrought iron pieces to this bridge, actually will increase the value of the bridge, and it may not be a moderate, it may be one of the higher exceptionals. And as it was said earlier, that only the high and exceptional preservation priority bridges were the ones that could use the capital funding. The capital funding also was only used for vehicular bridges, but we have used that money to help with Sheepford, which is not going to be a vehicular bridge. So some of those guidelines that we set up for that capital fund has been changed. So I think we can say this bridge is very important. Just because it was considered a lower rated bridge than some of, like maybe Sheepford, which was an older bridge and had more character defining features that were considered high value. This bridge is worthy of preservation. It is a National Register eligible bridge. It is one of the ones that has a high level of history and a high level of integrity, and it does deserve preservation.
Thank you. And then I met Ross and Mr. BOC at the bridge today to check it over further, and then Logan Sports from CS Davidson. And between my two visits, maybe 2 hours total, I think like 20 people came by. Walking, jogging, whatever. Some of you were only there an hour, but do you think that number, Ross was there for both hours, is that reasonable?
Yes.
And it was, yeah, kind of a cool winter day. So. Well, we saw more with our own eyes. So, and talked to neighbors. So anyway, so there's multiple uses of the bridges. So I think we've heard, oh no, Ken has to go, and Phil, if you have any further comments or questions.
Thank you to the panel members for your expertise. I learned a lot of stuff tonight. And thank you very much for the residents of the township for taking time out of a busy schedule. You don't get paid to be here. I don't get paid much either, but anyway, your participation, I think, is very, very important. And so I look forward to continuing dialogue on this project, and thank you.
Sure. I had a quick question for Tyra as well. My understanding was that when they evaluated the I don't know what the right word is, rankings, moderate, high level, worthy of saving, whatever, that part of the equation or part of the evaluation had to do with the proximity of other steel truss bridges. Is that the case?
This was all based on what we called a point system. We reevaluated on a point system. And we did look at bridges that were rare in a region, but that was usually, they had to have 3 or less bridges in the district. So we would have looked at PennDOT District 8 here. So if there are more than 3 in the district.
Sure. So the loss of the Gilbert Bridge, which was on the National Register, doesn't directly affect the ranking. Okay.
No.
Thanks.
Mr. President.
It's been 10 years since we did that reevaluation. And I think we have talked about looking at the evaluation as far as the preservation priority. And since we've lost so many of those bridges, of starting to raise the other ones up.
And how long would that reevaluation take?
We would need manpower to do it. And it's just not something we're doing right now.
Thank you.
I was just going to say, Mr. President, for the good of the order, 41 seconds to halftime, 7-6 Texans.
Thank you. Did we have a member standing or chairman of our heart? Did you wish to say something?
Just something very quick.
Very quick.
Late, but you might not have done.
Okay.
Hi, everybody. I'm Matt Taylor, Chairman of the Historic Architectural Review Board. I'm speaking on behalf of myself and not the board, in that I would love to see the bridge saved, but only if it is not at taxpayer expense. And I think one of the most amazing things is that Janice was able to obtain funding to be able to do it not at taxpayer expense. And I'm hoping that we could find something that addresses all of the financial concerns, because I don't want to be saddled with more taxes, but that we could also save it. And I'm just hoping we could figure out an and rather than an or. And that's all I have to say.
Thank you.
You wanted speakers to end in their remarks.
Oh, and we can receive additional comments?
No, I was just, some of you folks came with prepared notes, and if you don't mind, if you would leave them with Alexis, our secretary, that would help in minute taking. It would also help we as a board if we want to refer back for information. So please give those notes to Alexis if you don't mind.
So we're going to adjourn, and our solicitor is here. We did want to have a brief executive session with them. Then don't adjourn.
Just recess to executive.
So we're going to recess to executive session. Thank you.
I didn't mean to. People understand.